ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Yeah.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.
Talking shit with Glenn and Tony.
Once again on a Thursday, just like that. Got to do it.
And tonight we're going to be talking a lot of shit about something that's right in your ball court.
That's right. That's right. Something that looks something like this. Bass.
Yes, it's Bass Night.
Mm-hmm.
Part 2.
That's right. We've got a few. I mean, there were so many good ones that we had to pick and choose, but we got a bunch of them that I think will cover the subject quite well.
Well, and we're doing things a little different than normal. Tonight is pretty much going to be a spotlight on what I have to say is the best bass resource out there.
Oh yeah.
For anybody who's serious about like learning bass and want to take it to the next level, this is the theme of tonight's website and channel and what we're going to be looking at. It's all about upping your bass game, taking it to the next level.
Indeed. And Scott's is the
Devine.
Scott's Bass Lessons SBL Academy.
Yeah. And we actually came up with doing this because he just finished another big contest, and he's still got a couple of contests going. The awesome thing with Scott is he's kind of a bass philanthropist. He gives back a lot to his students and to his followers, and
absolutely,
he's constantly giving equipment away. For any of you bassists out there, you really want to keep up and follow him. You'll have opportunities to possibly win some great equipment.
Absolutely, and you learn something while you're there as well.
Yeah, in fact, when you go to his YouTube channel, which is at Devine Bass, if you check here in the community section, this is where he lets people know like the different giveaways he's doing. And look at this banana bass, man.
Banana bass. Yep, that's part of a contest that's, I believe, going on right now, and I think he's going to be drawing the winners on the 23rd. 21st, 23rd. We'll have to double check.
Oh, he's got different shots of it too.
Oh yeah. It's a 5-string. It's a beauty. I've seen him play it in several of his videos. These are usually like his personal bass that he's putting into these contests, like basses that he has used that either have been sent to him by the manufacturer or ones that he's picked up over the years. Just amazing stuff. I mean, he also has one of his videos is like 45 minutes long, and it was my bass collection, and I was like, wait, I mean, I have a bass, so it's like ta-da, there's my bass collection. But with him, it's like a 45-minute video to go through all the basses.
I know. I wanted to add that one, but it's long.
Yeah, exactly. But so many beautiful ones, like you're looking at right here. I mean, right there, that's we were talking about the pickups before, and the two that are little, those two chunks side by side, that's like the P bass style. And the one bar, that's like the J bass style.
So that's the PJ.
So that looks like a PJ to me. The one I have, if you were to look at this screen, like you see that it's just the 2 long bars.
Yeah.
So that's the J bass style. And this is a passive J bass. So there's no 9-volt battery or active electronics or anything like that.
Oh, and
And
I'd love
that
to
one looks
win
amazing.
this
Yeah.
one. Yeah, this is from
That's
5 days ago, so I think you might still have a chance for this one.
I think literally all of them are part of the same contest, and he's just showing off a different one each day or so. But the winners for all of them should be the ones that are getting announced on the 23rd.
6-string.
Yes. Which, if you can play a 5-string, a 6-string is no more complicated than the 6. But you can see them all in that shot right there, like he's all sitting around him. Like, which one should I play today? my only concern about having that many basses would be like, okay, how about keeping the strings fresh on all of them? Not that I change bass strings very often, but like when it comes to guitars, somebody who's got 20 guitars around the house, it's like, how often are you going to be changing those strings? Because if they sit, they're going to start oxidizing, and then they're not going to feel right when you go to play them. So keep the collection tight as far as what you're playing on a daily basis.
That is a tight collection.
Oh yeah. And all within arm's reach. And that's Scott. And he does some great stuff over there. I mean, again, I want to say that I've been a member of Scott's for probably 3 years now, 3 or 4 years. But just even finding some of the videos for free on the internet, if you're looking for bass stuff, you're going to come across Scott's videos for sure. But coming across them earlier rather than later is good, because then you can jump right in. He's got a lot of free resources. He's got a free crash course. I think we're going to actually look at part of that as part of what we're looking at here. We're going to be highlighting a few different parts of his website, some of the different playlists that he has going on there, because there's just so many different types of resources that he has available there, that they're all kind of broken down into different sections for you.
Yeah, that's why we decided to really there's so much that it's worthy of a full blown spotlight. The whole show is just going to be about all these awesome videos that he has broken up into awesome playlists, depending on what you're looking to learn. And these are the free videos that he puts out there.
Yep.
But it is worth going and checking, scottsbasslesson.com and see what he offers for those who are serious students. There's just so much resource. I think what impresses me the most about him, he understands how online teaching really works. We're going to look at his promo video in a moment, and he talks about like how teaching online these days, this is something he's really trying to improve on and utilize this vast resource of the internet. He's got a team of talent behind him that focuses on all sorts of different bass styles. And there's the video we're going to watch.
Yep. And to me, that's one of the important things, having the team, as far as different people connect with a different teacher. Like you'll see one teacher and you'll be like, whatever. You'll see another teacher and be like, oh yeah, that's the guy that I want to watch. And then you'll show him to your buddy and he'll be the opposite way, where the guy that you were really connected with, that he's like, that guy's a jerk or whatever. And then the other guy that you didn't care for is the guy that he connects with. So everyone's going to have a different perspective on that and who they connect with. And that's where having a whole team of different people and different styles of bass players on there that are all just amazing bass players and just experts in their field, be able to watch them give you these lessons one-on-one and see which one you connect with, or you connect with all of them, and you can pull nuggets from any of them for sure.
And look at, the different tutors and courses that you've got here, whether you're doing blues, how to get hired, industry advice. That's something that goes beyond your typical simple lessons.
That's like, okay, now I know how to play bass. Now what? How to get hired?
It's songwriting and composition. This is like the full gamut.
Yep. Lots of great stuff.
And jazz gotta be
it's in there somewhere. Yep.
And again, look at the different skills that they go into. Yeah, and they've got the step-by-step videos and tutorials. But what I thought was really cool is this live weekly learning, and you get into some one-on-one. This is where you really feel like you're with an instructor.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely checked out several of those. Some good stuff there.
Yeah, it's very concise. I mean, this goes above and beyond what you'll typically see for instructor-based websites.
Mm-hmm. And again, many different perspectives because you're getting from all these different instructors that are on there, all kind of under one roof, which is great. A lot of them he co-hosts, like it'll be Scott and somebody else, like Scott and Ian will both do a video together, or one of the other hosts, like they'll get together, or it'll be something where it's just completely hosted by another one because there's a specific, somebody is a metal bass player, so it'll be a specific video on that, or somebody else is all about the blues, like you said, and it'll be all about that. Very tailored and very focused towards very specific things. Lots of great
And
reviews.
everybody who tries it loves it. And he does give a 14-day free trial and a 30-day guarantee.
Yep.
And again, he gives back to his students and the opportunity to win equipment, get credit towards additional courses.
Yep. Part of the contest that's going on right now, where he's giving away that banana bass, is if you get the free subscription right there, or the free 14-day trial, that gives you extra entries into the contest, for example. So we'll look at that a little bit later. But the contest overall had, I want to say it was something like $50,000 worth of giveaways. It was a bunch of really nice basses, as well as 15 lifetime memberships for Scott's website.
And wasn't that the second one this year? Because he had one back in like January, right
There've
at
been
the
a few,
beginning of the year. Yeah.
I lose track of them. There's so many.
Yeah.
And also when he does some of those, it's also usually linked with a charity. I want to say one was about building schools in under-resourced countries as well, where with some of the stuff that's going in, whether it was for the contest or whether it was something related, he's working with charities as well. So it's not just all about bass; it's also about community. It's also about helping out, which I really like. Just very good philosophy overall.
Fostering creativity in kids, huge.
Yes.
And
exactly.
when I looked at it and I looked at the breakdown on the cost, when you think about it, 90 cents a day, I'd rather get half a cup of coffee in bass lessons than a half a cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a small cup of coffee too.
Yeah. McDonald's coffee.
But again, very good stuff.
Yeah, that's at scottsbasslessons.com. You can get all the information on this. He's also got two other links that are still about the courses and a little more focused on crash courses. That's at courses.scottsbasslessons.com. And he's got a free resource here where this is a free bass toolkit. It's a good way to get started, see what is offered in the bigger website, and this is a nice introductory into this.
Mm-hmm.
And look, he covers a lot there for a free bass toolkit.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's definitely not shy about giving stuff away, for sure. There's so much material that he has that's there's some that's the premier material, but there's also so much of the material that's available just on YouTube and just for free on his resources here as well.
And accessible on all platforms, phone, tablets, and computers.
Yep. All around. Can't say enough good things about the resources at Scott's, for sure.
Yeah. Well, to start, we're going to take a quick look at his introductory video that he has, that explains like his mission, what this is all about, and the team that he works with to put this all together.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got that over here. So this is just a little promo, show what we're going to be looking at, and then we're going to get into the fun stuff.
All right. Buckle up. Here we go for bass.
What if I told you the primary reason bass players cannot get their bass playing to the next level has got nothing to do with them finding more information? After all, you can find information from all over the internet, whether it's on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, or other online learning sites. And it's addictive, that next lick, that next bass line. But has all of that information actually made you a better player? The primary reason stopping so many bass players in their tracks is that they're completely overwhelmed and they just can't get the right information at the right time. The problem is online music education. What if instead of just more information, you had access to the right information at the right time, and you knew without a shadow of a doubt that what you were working on right now was exactly what you needed to move your bass playing to the next level? How much of that frustration and overwhelm would just completely disappear? SBL gives you a curated instructional path to follow, giving you the right information at the right time based on your specific level. For each skill level, we show you exactly what skills and techniques to focus on to make the fastest progress. You can actually measure your progress. It will jumpstart your learning. Our world-renowned course library featuring step-by-step courses from some of the best and most talented bass players and educators on the planet, so you can find the right course for the skill you want to develop. You can learn gospel from the likes of Andrew Goucher and Reggie Young, jazz from the likes of Gary Willis and Rufus Philpott, composition and bassline arranging with Michael League, metal with Adam Nolly Getgood and Dave Ellefson, R&B with the likes of Danny Mo Morris, ear training with Adam Neely, and over 200 curated hours of courses from the best bass players and educators on the planet. So whether you're looking to create grooves and bass lines, build your technique, solo and improvise like the pros, understand theory, scales and arpeggios, or discover session musician secrets, we will show you a personalised roadmap to get where you want to go. The SBL learning community is made up of bass players, musicians and music lovers, and bass education is what we do. Start your free 14-day trial today.
Man, he's got
Gotta
like
love free trials.
Hollywood. It's like Hollywood level production.
Good stuff. Absolutely. And a lot of the videos the same way, you know, as far as even if it's just videos where it's just him, you know, chatting about whatever. He's done so many of them now that they all come out with a very consistent look to them. Very good.
Oh, it's very polished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
speaking of videos, these playlists that like I picked from a handful of them and found, you know, had to pick one from each playlist, which was probably the hardest that I've had yet to choose, because I just wanted to go through everything.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It does. You can go down quite a few rabbit holes there, whether it's a different style of bass that you're used to, or you look at one of the ones that's on gear or one that's on technique that you don't necessarily use. Slap is one that's very, very specific, and you know, good to get some resource on that, because that's something where if someone's gonna, if you're gonna play bass for someone, they're gonna say, hey, play slap something, you know, just because they want to hear that. And if you just pull off something like that, even if it is just nonsense that you're playing, if it sounds impressive, then that's all it was. You only needed a few seconds. Just there it is.
Oh yes, and if you want to be a serious bassist, you're gonna need to learn to slap. I couldn't ignore that playlist.
But don't slap all the time, though, unless you're in that style of music. If you're certain styles of music, you can get away with that. But for the most part, it's, you know, for emphasis, you get that in there. Or a
No,
certain song.
there's a couple players in here that can definitely pull it off.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, no doubt
So
there.
the first playlist, you know, just to get started, say you're new to bass, this is a good playlist to hit first. It gives you the basics and the beginner bass lessons to get you going. And this one was an easier one for me to pick because he does have a great like introductory video to get into like the things you want to know when you're first starting out.
Mm-hmm. And even if you consider yourself intermediate or advanced or whatever, you consider yourself beyond beginner stuff. To me, like if I go into something like this, I always start at the beginner anyway. And just, even if it's, because it's only one time through, like if I watch it one time, even if it's all review, I might catch a nugget here or there, or make a connection here or there that I hadn't made before because of the way that they present the material. So for me, like I'm always up for seeing review information, as long as there's like, some possibility of learning something new in there, or learning something different about what I already knew, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be tips for beginners in under 5 minutes, but
He needed a few.
they had to scratch that and do it in 10.
So we'll see we'll find out how much they can squeeze into 10 minutes though, because that's still, you can get a lot of tips in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, and I think this is one he does with Ian, so another one that you're going to see throughout the evening.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So let's jump into it then and see what we have with must-know tips for beginner bassists.
Must know.
Must.
Oh, dude, I found it. An extensive video essay comparing the original trilogy to the compromised re-release.
No.
Yes.
No.
Do you want to watch it?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right now?
Yes.
No. Because we need to talk about the top 10 tips for beginners in under 5 minutes.
Punch it, Chewy. So when you start playing the bass, you got to start anchoring your thumb, right? You're playing down here on these strings. Okay, you need to know what to do with your thumb. I've seen people do this with it behind the bass.
Yeah.
I've seen people do this where it kind of like floats in the air. Yuck, right? You've got to anchor it somewhere. It needs an anchor point. What I like to do is when I'm playing the E string, this low string down here, my thumb will most likely be found on top of what's called the pickup here, right? So I'll be like down here. And then when I move to the other strings, I can just put my thumb on the top of the E string, this thicker string here, and it can just sit there nice and neat and out of the way.
At SBL, we just wrapped up the biggest and best online bass event of the year, Bass Space 2023. Clinics, interviews, performances, roundtable discussions. It's like the bass Super Bowl for us. Now to celebrate, we want to invite you into the annual membership, which is going to save you almost 50% off of taking it monthly, and we're going to give you a month to try it out on us. And as a bonus to say thank you, we're also going to give you access to all of the recordings from Bass Space 2023. So we hope you take the plunge and decide to come study with us. Let's get back to the video. Now, once you've gotten that thumb anchored where you want it to be, let's work on the correct pluck, a rest stroke, okay? What that means is you are going to drop your finger through the string and it will rest on the adjacent string, right? See how that's happening there? Or in the case of the E string, it drops and rests against either your thumb or the pickguard or the body of your bass.
What should they not be doing?
So instead, you shouldn't be clanking, right? Or pulling up and away,
yeah.
right? This is a very small sound versus this.
Exactly.
A very full sound, right? And something that you can do to just get it going is just take very simple quarter notes, even just with one finger, and don't pull up and away, right? Don't smash the bass. Get a nice solid sound, no clank with your rest stroke.
Okay, so now you've got your rest stroke going on and that sounds really nice and fat. Now we want to get you using 2 digits on this hand. We don't want you to be a 1-finger bandit like this, right? You need to be using 2 fingers, your index finger and your middle finger, okay? So we go index, middle, index, middle,
Yes.
index, middle, index, middle. And then as you play other riffs and lines around the bass, as you get better, right, you are always going to be using both fingers like this. Check it out.
So at this point, you want to talk about gear? You want to talk about gear?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No. Do not obsess over gear. I mean, and I'm really talking to myself here. Honestly.
And me.
Yes, we sometimes obsess over gear, but check this out. Jim brought in this amazing Squier bass. Give a shout, Jim.
Shout to Jim behind the camera.
It's so cool. And you know, this was like $150 and it sounds awesome, and it plays awesome. So, I mean, I have gone gear crazy in the past, right? Really trying to buy the coolest basses, and you don't need to do that. You need a solid instrument. Get yourself a solid bass and just work on your playing.
So next up is that we want you to use your pinky on your fretting hand, okay? It's so easy to ignore that. There are too many bass players that do not use their little finger when they're playing. And if you're wanting to, in the future, okay, to play stuff like that, you need to use your little finger. So I'm going to give you a real simple exercise right now, okay? Now you can do this all over the bass, but we're just going to start up here on the G string because it's not too much of a stretch, okay? So you put your index finger on the 7th fret of the G string, okay? Then I want you to put your middle finger on the next fret, then your 3rd finger on the next fret, and then your 4th finger on the next fret. Okay, now you can do this in 2 different ways. What Ian's doing there, as you can see, he's playing the index, middle, 3rd, and 4th. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And as he's doing that, he's actually releasing the tension on the other fingers. So when the middle finger goes down, the index finger pops up. When the 3rd finger goes down, the middle finger pops up. And when the little finger goes down, the 3rd pops up, okay? Try that out, but once you've done that, try and keep them all down at the same time, okay? So index, then put your 2nd finger down, keep that index down, 3rd finger goes down, keep the 2nd finger down, and then 4th finger goes down, and then by that time, they're all down. Now, if you find that too much of a stretch, don't worry, these fingers here can actually, they can move around.
I like
here.
that.
But what I don't want you to do is put one finger down and all of the others to bob up, because I call that seesawing, right? What we want to do is get that really nice and smooth. Once you've got down to the top there, you can actually go back down. Check this out.
Next up, in the beginning, don't stand up and wear a strap. Sit down when you're practicing the bass. I mean, are your kids playing the bass yet?
Yeah, absolutely. My 7-year-old daughter just started playing the bass. Do you know what one of the first things she wanted to do was?
What's that?
Oh, Daddy, I want to stand up with the strap. Don't do it.
Okay, I agree, right? But why shouldn't you start out with a strap?
Because when you're sitting down, it's just a nice neutral playing position. It's on your lap here. Everything's super easy and accessible. As soon as you start introducing a strap, you might have it too low. You might have it too high. It's like these are heavy and you're stringing it around your neck while you're worrying about anchoring and, plucking correctly. It's overcomplicating things, okay? The right time to get a strap is when you're playing in a band.
Next up is a tip that I didn't know for far too long, and this beautiful man right here introduced me to it. It is about getting the positioning of your bass right while you're seated. So you got to take this one.
Absolutely. It's so common when players first pick up their bass that they've watched bass players in bands and on TV and stuff like that. And everybody gets their bass and they put it flat to their body like that.
That's what I did.
This is a disaster. It's a disaster because when you're playing, okay, so as soon as you get up here, this arm's hitting your body.
Yes.
Your arm starts doing this. It's a disaster and it's super easy to solve, okay? When you're sat now, I'm sat, straight onto the camera right now with my bass across my body. All I need to do is push out that neck, okay?
Oh.
Push out that neck. So imagine you're sat in a box, okay? You're sat in a box. Instead of the bass going from one side to the other, it's going from one corner of the box to the other. And then
next up, you got to learn how to tune your bass. There are pedal tuners like this for about $100.
you can get a clip-on tuner that goes directly onto your headstock for about $20, or you can just get an app that's free. So next up is to learn songs. Please do not forget why you picked this instrument up in the first place. Yes, you're going to have to learn scales and modes and arpeggios, and all of them are very important, but do not forget what you picked this instrument up for in the first place, to learn songs, to make music, right?
And let's show you a song right now, right? Okay, let's do it. 2 notes. 3rd fret, E string, 5th fret, E string, G, and A.
Are you ready?
2, 3, 4. Girl, you really got me going. You got me so I don't Next up, be patient. Be kind to yourself. This is a process that is going to take a while, but you should endeavor to enjoy every moment of it.
Absolutely. Think of your favorite bass player now. Seriously, think of them right now. You got it? Okay. Well, they started off just like you, just like me, just like Ian. We all picked up that bass for the first time. We didn't know anything about it. We didn't know what these controls did, or how to, where to put our thumb and how to put the strings. All of us were in the exact same spot right now. So don't be ashamed of it, okay? You are just starting out learning this amazing instrument, and you are going to have an awesome time doing it.
Lord Vader, you may take Captain Solo to Jabba the Hutt after I have Skywalker.
He's no good to me dead.
He will not be permanently damaged.
Dude, did you know that Boba Fett isn't actually a Mandalorian?
Boba who?
Not just a good bassist, but a Star Wars fan as well.
Yes. Gotta love the sci-fi nerds. Of which I am one for sure.
And those are some great introductory tips there. That positioning one, especially, hadn't thought of that, but the natural inclination to like hold it like you see others doing it isn't always the best approach.
Yeah. And a lot of it does come down to what is comfortable for you, because different people have different different size hands, different size fingers. Things will be more comfortable for me to do something than it would be for somebody else. So everybody's got to figure out what works for them. For the pinky thing, it's important to use the pinky. I'm a big fan of one finger per fret. So like if I have my index finger on the 3rd fret, then my pinkies, they've got 3, 4, 5, and 6 are being covered, one for each finger. Some people, when they're starting out, if they have smaller hands especially, would start out learning 1, 2, 4, where they're learning to play 3 frets with the first finger, the middle finger, and the pinky, and leaving like the ring finger out, or using 1, 2, and then the ring finger, leaving the pinky out entirely. But it is better to go 1 finger per fret and get all 4 involved, get the pinky strength in there. Like he was showing certain phrases you would not be able to do without some pinky strength. And it just makes good sense to start out with good habits that way.
And surprising to hear him like say, "Don't worry about the gear," considering his arsenal. But it is especially when you're starting out, you don't want to lead the carriage before the horse.
Right. Now there are certain limits to that as well. Like, it doesn't mean that you could just slap together a couple pieces of wood and throw some strings on it and say, here's your first guitar, and now you could be a virtuoso. There are certain minimal things that would need to be involved. But like he was saying, there was, $150 bass that he grabbed there that sounded amazing, as he was playing it. And so, a lot of that comes down to the player for sure. But there's also a lot of things, some of the videos that I've seen, I believe he has one there for turning a bass that is a cheap bass into, make it sound like it's an expensive bass. And a lot of it is just simple things you can do with intonation and making sure that, making certain adjustments to the pickup, certain adjustments to the neck, things like that. Beyond the general setup things that can make it play even better than it would otherwise, simple little fixes and things like that.
Yeah, and one of the things I noticed as I was perusing all the videos, there's a couple of them where they compare the expensive basses versus the inexpensive ones, and whether it's worth the money.
The main thing about the cheap bass being perfectly fine is what they're trying to get to the point across, that you don't have to think, well, if only I had the money to get a really nice bass, then I could play well. Like that's not what should be holding you back. Like if you have access to a bass of any kind, as long as it's, again, it shouldn't hurt your hands when you're playing it. It shouldn't cut your fingers up when you're going up and down the frets. Like, certain things that need to feel right when you're playing it. But if you can do that and get the proper technique going, which you'll learn by watching a lot of these videos from these guys, especially like he was just talking about, keeping the fingers down rather than hit a note and then blah, hand comes completely off. I've seen people do that with acoustic guitar as well at an open mic, where they'll play a chord and then the whole hand comes as far away from the neck as it can, and they've got to find their way back to where they need to be for the next one, rather than trying to keep common notes down and keep their fingers, it's economy of motion. You want to keep the fingers close to the strings. Even if you're off the strings, you're right there so that you can get to it very quickly if you need to.
And speaking of hurting hands, you notice he plays with a glove
Yes.
on his fretting hand, which
Mhm.
when I first saw that, I was like, how is he doing that? Like I
Yeah.
would think it would get in the way, but does not seem to get in his way at all.
Yep. Not at all. He actually made a couple of videos about why he wears the gloves. I believe it is a neurological condition that he has, where his if he's trying to play and he's not wearing the gloves, he'll have his fingers will stop doing what they need to at certain times, and it's just when he's wearing the gloves, it's no longer a problem because there's some contact on the skin. Apparently, is what makes it work out better. So it's not like a fashion statement thing. There's a purpose for him wearing the gloves,
Well,
and
and
in his case,
it
it makes it work for him.
affects on the fretting side where he's pushing in like that, because you notice he doesn't need it on the right side. The contact there with the strings is not as direct on your fingers.
I think I have seen him do videos with two gloves, but I'm not 100% on that.
Oh God, he can do it on the
If it's
picking hand too.
if you're able to slide with the fretting hand like that, then the picking should be no problem either. And as a matter of fact, like with me, when I'll find that if I don't play bass for a week or two, and then I come in and start playing heavily, and I'm doing a lot of fast stuff where I'm doing finger style fast stuff where I'm going digga 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 like back and forth with the fingers. I can burn my fingers out real quick, but if I had a glove like that and I got comfortable with it, then it would probably not be as bad, not because it's more of a surface friction thing than it is, a thumping thing or a problem with like, a blister forming from other means. But they don't usually blister up though, because they're tough enough now where, having played as much as I have, that I can just play and play and play for hours if I want to and not have any after effects unless I play like that, get really built up in playing hours every day, and then don't play for a week or two. And
You're a big boy now.
yeah. It's like play a little bit every, that's one of the things, like, play a little bit every day, and it'll keep your fingers in shape to continue to play, to be able to on the spot be like, oh, play for an hour here just for, because you got inspired one day. You hear a song and you're like, hey, that's pretty cool. And you pick up the instrument, you figure out how to do a certain lick or a certain, phrase. And then you play it over and over because it's fun. I mean, that's happened to me many times. Like I'll do that watching movies. I'll hear it, watch a movie and you hear some phrase, do 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 do, and you're like, well, ooh, what is that? And then you pick up the instrument, whether it's whatever's handy, the guitar, the bass.
I think that's what he was doing at the start of the video.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
hey, we learned how to play "You Really Got Me" now in
Yeah,
under
third
10
fret,
minutes.
third fret, fifth fret, exactly. And when he was talking about the thumb rest, that was one thing about the 5-string bass, is that, like he was saying, if you're trying to play that low E string, some people, they're just kind of floating out in the middle of nowhere with their thumb. They don't have anywhere to anchor. But on a 5-string bass, that low B string, you could just hang out there all day because you don't ever technically have to play that low B string. If you're accustomed to playing a 4-string bass, you could just play those other 4 strings and have your thumb rested on that low B string as just your movable thumb rest. That's just always in exactly the right place because it's right next to the E string. So it's right there. You can slide
Convenient
up and
anchor.
down wherever you want to go. You can just hang out on that B string and do whatever you need.
Yeah,
So I'm a fan of that.
convenient anchor.
Yeah.
So that came from the beginner's bass lesson playlist, and great tips to get started. The next playlist, he does breakdowns in this playlist, and you'll notice, like, look at the amount of videos in these playlists. They are
Yeah,
chock full.
exactly.
I had a hard time picking just one.
Mhm.
And with this one, you know me when it comes to tone and
Yeah.
like what makes sound, and in the bass world, the bassists who have had those distinct tones that have defined music during their times, this is one of the awesome videos that
Mhm.
just looks at like some of the great bass players who shaped the bass sound through the 20th century.
And the question is how much of it is, physical things like putting foam on the bass strings and tucking under and get that kind of a sound, versus people who are doing muting, versus people who are doing slapping and coming up with their own techniques entirely. Got to see something probably about, I mean, there's so many that we'll have to see that, but we're talking about rock bass tones. So it could be very specific to rock bass stuff as well. But
Yeah,
I'm
their
excited to see.
styles lent a lot to it, but also the equipment itself during those times. I mean, bass sound was going through an evolution, through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and you're going to see artists mentioned all across there. Even the 50s. I mean, go Paul McCartney.
Oh yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, he was a Rickenbacker guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, he also had the the McCartney bass is what they would usually call that violin bass that we've talked about a couple times, where it looks like a Hofner violin bass. Some people call it a Beatle bass or a McCartney bass because they've seen him playing it, but it looks like just a bigger violin, but you're playing it like a bass.
And you're a good bassist if they start calling those basses after your name.
The signature series, yeah. But yeah, we should see now what we have for the 10 greatest rock bass tones of all time.
Dude, today I'm going back to my roots and we're going to be looking at the top 10 greatest rock bass tones of all time. So with that said, let's jump into it. Okay, so before we get into this, obviously I can't put this video together and not expect to be kind of like burned at the stake by some of you guys, because you'd be like, why wasn't this in there? Why wasn't this?
Oh, that's not my house.
I get it. I can't do, I can't cater for everybody. So this is like my top 10 greatest rock bass tones of all time. But we're going to start in date order. Let's jump in. Originally recorded in 1965, although this version was recorded in 1967. It's obviously the godfather of rock bass, John Entwistle with The Who, and this is My Generation. Just listen to this tone. It's frightening. And if you're wondering, he is playing with a pick, and that's why there's just a certain pick attack to the tone. Check this out. Now, if you want to get that kind of thing down, most of that is actually just the A minor pentatonic scale, right? Check it out. So next up is John Paul Jones, and obviously with Led Zeppelin, and this is Lemon Song, recorded in 1969. Now, right around this time, John Paul Jones has been hugely influenced by James Jamerson, who was obviously churning out all of those great Motown albums and tracks. And you can really hear that John Paul Jones is trying to copy that Jamerson type of approach, but also his tone. And I think that this is really fantastic because it's, for me, the first time that you can really hear that I don't know, that sort of like Jamerson old school tone, but applied in a rock context with obviously Led Zeppelin. Now check this out. This is the Lemon Song live, and as you can see, John Paul Jones is playing a jazz bass. And from my knowledge, I think that he did use a jazz bass on the Lemon Song, the original. If you know anything, any other information about that, obviously let us know in the comments, so all of the rest of the community can also learn the truth. Right there by the neck. Applying a lot of walking bass style language there in a way, like Jamerson did. So next up is the awesome Geddy Lee, and the track is YYZ from the 1981 album Moving Pictures. Just a cracking bass tone, just like so meaty. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a little blast of the track, and then we're going to listen to the isolated bass so you can really hear what's going on there as well. Check it out. So So obviously that wasn't the original that I just played you there. It was like a live version, but this is the original track. I'm not sure whether he was using a jazz bass at this time. If you have more knowledge than I do, very likely, let me know in the comments so everybody else can pick up that as well. Check this out. So this is the isolated bass track from the original. Can you hear how hard he's hitting that? And Geddy plays right over here as well. He's not one of these guys that plays back at the bridge. He's really hitting through the string, and that's what gives it that real percussive attack. You can actually hear it just slapping against the fingerboard so hard, so good. So before we get into this, we just need to give a bit of love to Matt Sorum, who just kills it on drums here. This is Duff McKagan. Obviously, like, I'm not sure whether you guys were into Guns N' Roses back in the day, but you guys that were like, Appetite for Destruction. Can we just have some love for that album, please? Obviously, it was Guns N' Roses' debut album. It just blew my mind. Now I'm going to show you a live version here, but the original version, definitely check that out. It was recorded in 1987. 1987, man. I was 9 years old back then. But just check this out. And Duff, on the original recording, was using a P-bass. No, hang on. He was using a jazz bass special. Bit of love to Matt Sorum, and check out this tone, and then we're going to check out the isolated bass tone as well. Oh! It's got the Duff McKagan chorus. Now this bass line's got a real great roll to it. It's got this dong. Check out I'm going to play the original track, the original isolated bass track from the original that was recorded in 1987. Check this. Great top end to the sound. That roll. What a cracking bass tone. Now if you listen to it, it's really interesting that you can hear that the way that Duff plays, the pick, as I wish I had a pick here today. Anyway, I'm organisationally a nightmare. If I had a pick, I'll be able to show you, okay, that when he's playing that string, the pick isn't hitting this, like at this angle, it's actually hitting the string at an angle like this. And it's because, in general, Duff has his bass string, he's a low stringer. Low stringer? Anyway, it's hung down by his knees. So it means he's like picking like that, and it gets this kind of sort of like grating against the string. Listen to the tone, you'll hear it. Right on the front end of the note, there's like a Now that's a real common thing with rock bass players. When they play with a pick, if that bass is strung low, they're going to be hitting that string at an angle. It's going to give just the aesthetic feel of that note, of the tone, a different vibe. So it's definitely something to look out for. Right, dudes, 1989, Mr. Big, Billy Sheehan, Addicted to That Rush. So good. Got the Yamaha BB. Now the next one, I couldn't really pick which bass sound to go for this particular player, so I'm combining two tracks for this bass player. Bass player is Billy Gould, band Faith No More. Album is The Real Thing, okay, recorded in 1989. Now this first track is called Fall Into Pieces. Now Fall Into Pieces, for me, when you hear the tonal kind of vibe that Billy gets here, for me, I think that this was really like a launch pad for so many more bass players, really moving towards the like more metal genre as well. Just that sort of like top end scooped mids, like there's and then big bass, right? That's his sound on this specific track, which I believe has had a huge influence to a lot of metal bass players after this time. But remember, man, this is back in 1989. Check it out, just a short clip. Hear them scooped mids. Now, I said there was 2 tracks, right? The second track, check it out, is epic. Okay, so I'm going to play you a little bit of the original and then we're going to listen to the isolated track because the bass tone he gets and the attack on the note, a bit of love for Mike Patton as well. Okay, isolated bass track. Just check, it's so, like the compression on it, the drive, it's like sucked in. It's got, oh. That. So you're probably waiting for this one. Obviously, Rage Against the Machine, bass player Timmy C. Bass, Music Man, I think. 1990, recorded 1 year after the Rage track that you just heard. This was done in 1992. The band was Alice in Chains. The bass player was Mike Starr. The album was Dirt, and the track is Wood. Now this, when I first heard this, it's just got, again, like a different aesthetic to the vibe. It was something new that I'd not really heard before, and it definitely kind of drew me to the band, to the album, to the whole thing. But just of Green Day, the track was, well, Longview, and the album was Dookie, recorded in 1994. This is just, it's just like a great classic P-bass sound, but just like right up in the mix. You can hear he's got the pick. You can hear it's slightly angled as well. Just take what I was talking about before. Just check it out. Hear the front end of the note there? It's that low strung P bass. Pick at an angle. So next up we've got Flea with the Chili Peppers. The album was Californication, recorded in 1999. And the track here is Around the World. Just classic, like epic bass tone. I think everybody remembers hearing this if you were around when it first came out. It was just like, what's that? Check it out. Oh, oh. Like normally I would listen to that. If you played it in a different context, I'd be like, ooh, I'm not into that bass tone at all. But in this context, it's just ferocious. So good. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure that you like and subscribe this video down below. And if you've got any recommendations for other videos like this that you want us to do, make sure you put it in the comments. We read through these comments after every YouTube release. We'll go through, we'll pick stuff out, and we will make it for you. So stick it in the comments. And obviously, if you want to find out anything more about what we do, go to scottsbasslessons.com. We're the ultimate online school for bass players like you. You can study with the best bass players on the planet in the comfort of your own home. That's crazy, right? Who knew modern technology would let us do this, right? So go to scottsbasslessons.com, grab a 14-day free trial, try it for yourself, and hopefully I'll see you on the inside. Anyway, take it easy, and I'll see you in the shed.
Oh, I like that one.
A lot of good ones in there.
Oh, yeah, his picks, you know, you can see like his age and his influences there. I mean, he did go back to like the late '60s with the Who basis, but you see in the '80s and '90s his influences there. I'm so glad he gave Billy Sheehan love. Like Billy was the first one for me that got me like really interested in the bass tone.
Yeah, and for me, so much of learning bass from the start was just learning about, how to play the notes and this and that. It wasn't about the tone at all. It was like I'm just playing, either completely unplugged and just hitting the frets in the right places and listening to the, the acoustic sound coming off the electric bass, or just listening to it through headphones rather than having it through a bass amp or through any effects at all. So getting having a bass amp, in recent years, having a bass amp, playing gigs out, having pedals where I sometimes use pedals, but normally not for gigs. Normally for gigs, it's just the bass amp, but I usually do use like that little mid-scooped kind of a sound, like not for a really aggressive tone, but more because it's more of a style of music thing. Like I'll do it for reggae sounds, or for Latin sounds, or for rock sounds, whatever we happen to be doing at the time. But a lot of it comes down to, as he was saying, with the attack of the pick. That's a big one. Like whether when it's strung low, you're automatically getting that angle on the pick already. But that angle that he's talking about is something that people talk about for speed picking, for metal as well, where having the diagonal rather than trying to hit the pick flat. Because if you're hitting it flat, you're not gonna get the same kind of speed or sound or attack as you do with that angled pick.
Yeah, and you saw a range between picking and finger
Mhm.
picking there
Yep.
across those different choices.
Exactly.
I mean, the early ones, it was all with the pick.
And it depends. I mean, again, that's another one with style, where you can play very heavy stuff with no pick. You can play very light stuff with a pick. There's no real limitations on that. It's kind of whatever you can make work. One that I had over here that we talked about before was here's one of my regular picks compared with this felt pick. Like this is one of
Oh,
the ones I
yeah.
use for guitar, which is a thick pick for guitar. Actually, I mean I want to say that's a 1.5. I think it's a 1.5 thickness there. Whereas this felt pick is like 4 times the thickness, where it's just ridiculously fat. But it has some flexibility to it, and it actually helps to mute the string when you hit through. It'll actually mute the string to it. So rather than it just being a completely percussive thing like it is with the thicker picks. But so much tone does come from the pick versus the fingers. A lot of times you can get a little bit louder. Like if I'm playing bass or guitar and I'm at my maximum volume on the guitar or bass, and whatever I'm set at the amp, I can get a little bit louder if I grab a pick rather than playing fingerstyle like I was if I was playing fingerstyle. By the same token, if I need to quiet down a little bit and I'm playing with the pick, I can just switch to playing fingerstyle, and it kind of brings things down a notch and gives it a little bit more warmth because I'm
Well,
just
and
strumming across with that.
you're getting that pluck with the pick that some of these, the tone really works great with that plucking
Oh yeah.
sound.
Oh yeah. And with with guitar at least,
Guns N' Roses, that was a good example of like how the pluck complements the actual bass part.
Oh, definitely. I do actually use the like the back of my nails, whether it's like strumming down with guitar more. If I'm doing guitar chords and I just need to strum, I'll strum down with just the backs of my nails, and then strum up with my thumbnail. So I'm just basically using just letting my hand kind of glide past or graze the strings on the way down, and then thumb on the way back up, and you can just kind of relax the wrist and just jugga 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 and get the chugs happening that way on guitar without having to use a pick. So you're not tightly gripping anything, and you don't have to worry as much about targeting. You can be hitting the strings with like all 4 fingers on the way down and with just the thumb on the way up, but you get a nice full sound by doing it that way, compared to just using the flesh of the fingers, where you would get a softer sound that's a little more round.
So, and we are going to get more into the pick debate in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
That is one of the ones that we have talked about on several occasions.
It is not settled yet.
And the other debate that goes on in the bass world, from our Bass Tales playlist that he has.
Nice.
Again, this was one that I really wanted to pick a couple, but Nicole, she's one of their go-tos that like she knows her shit about basses, and she's a big advocate of the J bass.
Nice. J bass is what I play, so I can't fault her for having that opinion.
Yeah, and when I was going through all these, and you see like a lot of debate go on between the basses when it comes to the P bass, the J bass. I didn't even know about the PJ bass until I went down this rabbit hole, and it does seem like one of those compromise kind of instruments.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll see if I can borrow Mike's PJ bass. He has one that is, that style where it's one P pickup and one J pickup, so you can switch the electronics to be one or the other.
Oh, and it'd be nice to hear the difference in tone as you do.
Exactly. But in the meantime, it's why every bassist has to own a J bass.
Has to.
It's a law. It's a moral imperative.
Well, Nicole says so. So you better take it serious.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm Nicole Row. I'm a Los Angeles session and touring bass player, currently working with Panic at the Disco and all over Los Angeles. Okay, so this bass that I'm starting with, this is a Marco bass. I love this one so much. It's like sort of my funk go-to bass that I'll take to like sessions or, Scary Pocket stuff. This bass is funny to me because Marco made me a bass, and then we were at NAMM, I'm at his booth, I have mine, there's this one sitting there, and I just fell in love with this bass, and we basically just traded on the spot. And I remember in the moment somebody looking at the bass he built for me, it was like, can I have this? So who knows what that one is, but yeah. I love this one so much. She's beautiful. Okay, so this, when I was going to school, there's so many things I could say about that, but when I first started going to school, I knew nothing about anything, and an instructor of mine was like, hey, you should check out this bass because your hands are the size of child hands, and but this bass is full scale. And he sent it to me online, and I ordered it off eBay, and it came, and I just latched onto it immediately. I love the tone, I love the touch of it. The action's super low, and the neck width is super tiny at the nut, which is great. But it also has a Sadowski preamp inside of it, which gives it a lot more kick and color, which I love. Way more low end. During COVID, of course, like everyone, I started recording my own original stuff. And I also love camping, which you'll see why this makes sense. I went on this camping trip, with me and my dog for weeks. It was just living out of the car, covered in dirt. It was real rough. But I took this mini setup of recording gear and a bass. And it was just an interface in my laptop and, a converter or an inverter for the car. You can plug stuff in. And I would have it buried under everything in the car so nobody knew it was there. And, there was times where somebody let me sleep on their vineyard on a hill by myself, and I would, late at night, after they got me a little too drunk, I would plug all my shit in, and I'd be sitting just stuck in the car like this, recording, and it was all with this bass on the road, camping. And so that's, if you check out the tune Headspace, it's all outside, basically, or in my car with this guy, so. This is my F bass. I sent them the specs of my Fender Marcus Miller jazz bass, and I was like, neck width, especially at the nut, as close to this as possible, pretending it's a 5-string, right? My other one's a 4. So that took a really long time to negotiate, but obviously they did a great job. It's super tiny for my super tiny hands. Yeah, I love this bass. This is what I play most often now. F bass. Envelope filter for the win, always. Okay, so this bass, this is my Fender 5-string. When I first started playing with Panic, on a lot of the recordings, everything's detuned, like to the maximum, all the bass parts, which is really cool, but I also wanted to be able to transfer the songs onto any instrument, you know, on the fly, or like if some bass was broken in the moment, like you could hand me whatever bass and I'd still be able to play the songs, right? I wouldn't have to worry about tuning or anything like that. So when I went into learning the songs, I just wanted a 5-string so I could play everything on one bass. After I got off from tour with Panic, I just sort of stuck with the 5-string, playing like R&B, soul, funk, all kinds of stuff, and you know, the 5th string just sort of laid nicely into that, so I've kind of fallen in love with it. But this bass is the one that I got for the Panic tour. Obviously there's a few, but this was the first one. Bam. I remember somebody once telling me when I was just only having my jazz bass, they're like, no, Nicole, you have to, you're a bass player, you're a working bass player, you have to own a P bass. And so I got a P bass. My local tech, I don't know if I want to give you guys her name because she's busy and I don't want you to occupy her time. I'm just kidding. Tina at the amp shop. She put this little tone control knob thing that almost creates like different P bass tones. So you'll hear it get crispier. Anyways, all the way. Till it gets real bright. Right? I've actually loaned this bass to people to take into sessions because it sounds really good recorded. It sounds very authentic. So yeah, Bartolini pickups in there. Yeah, she's cool. This bass has been in my closet for a really long time. I got her, oh God, how was I? I was like maybe 21, maybe not. Probably still working off my fake ID, but I worked at a Guitar Center, which was, you know, I'm grateful for the work, but I'm not a good employee when it comes to anything. That's not what I do now. It was working on commission, which I can't sell anything to anyone, let alone sell something I don't think someone should have to them. So I would tell people, you know, this isn't, you know, what your kid needs, or this isn't a good piece, or you could get this cheaper used, or have you heard of reverb, you know, like things like that. So, you know, since I worked there for such a short period of time, I would sneak away into the acoustic room if I needed a minute, and there was one day where I just sat down and I played all the different acoustic basses because they had this pillar in the room so I could hide behind it. And I picked them all up, and I think there was even like a few of these, but I played this one and it was just so much better than all of the other ones. You know, it resonated bigger, warmer, and you know, it's the acoustic bass, I don't play a lot. Just, I play with really low action, and this is not set up that way. So it's very, it serves a very specific purpose, but this is just such a beautiful instrument. I love it so much. And it's been with me for a long time.
Shit, for someone who's not that much of a saleswoman, she sold me on that F bass.
I love the tone. She got some nice toys there for sure.
Oh,
Very, very nice.
the tone on that one was just so ambient and smooth.
Yeah. Excellent. And great demonstrations too.
Yeah, she really feels out her equipment. Like she gets intimate with it.
Absolutely. And again, like a lot of the stuff is about exploring those different tone options. Like whether it's, even just with the stock controls that are on your instrument, get comfortable with, what does it sound like at full volume with full tone, and then bring the tone down, and then try this, try different settings to see what jumps out at you or see what inspires you. Because sometimes you'll adjust the tone and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that suddenly sounds like this song, and it'll just start coming out. And like you can start, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can play that song. And now you know how to get that sounding, that particular tone.
And it's good to have a good equipment engineer. She's bogarting Tina over at the amp store.
Yeah, apparently. She's too busy. But I know people like that too. I know people who they have a shop at home where they'll build custom instruments, and obviously they can do setups and whatever, but they don't, it's not like they're out there trying to get setups, from everybody all over the place. Like they have, they'll do it for friends is basically what it comes down to in some cases, or people that they work with already, established clientele.
Or in some cases, it's a labor of love for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like with me, I mean, I'm just happy to, like, if somebody had an instrument and I was over their house and they had an instrument, I'm looking at it, I'd be like, oh, we can, we could change this, we could change that, like, it just, make little adjustments to the intonation and whatever, like right there on the spot, and make the instrument play better, feel better, whatever.
Well, and as she's grown up with the bass, she's gotten to know like what she's looking for, and when you can define what you're looking for to a tech like that, and customize your instrument to exactly what you're looking for. I mean, she's got them building them for her.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't know what to ask for when you go in to somebody like that, they would, to a tech, they would basically just, we'll set it up like this. In one case, I went to a tech and he asked me, how I like the action, how I like this and that. And I was just getting started. So I had gotten the instrument, I'd played it for a while, and I wanted to bring the action down because it was very, very high action when I got it. And it's a 5-string, and it needed, the intonation wasn't quite right when I got it either. So like wanted to get it all completely, looked at, overhauled. So it was a guy in the city that I knew from through my buddy Mike, and very serious guy, had 40 or 50 instruments lined up in the house. Like when I got there, like they're actively working on like a whole bunch of stuff there. But it was it was great. Like he's like, okay, well, how do you play this and that? So we had to actually sit down and like try a couple things. Like let me sit down and show you a couple things. And he's like, okay, well, you have very big hands. You play very hard. You're not very hard, but you can play a lot harder than most people. So like set it up a little different than maybe he would set it up for somebody else. But it was a matter of me not knowing exactly what to ask for, but him knowing how to figure out what to do to get it where I needed it.
And she's another one that evolved to the 5-string and assimilated to it.
Yeah, I love the 5-string. I mean, that's the thing is once I wanted to jump right in with the 5-string. That's the first bass I've owned is the 5-string. I did get a couple since then that are 4-string fretless, and then we have a 5-string at the studio. And when I go out to Pepe has a really nice P bass from back in, I think it's early 70s. So it's really nice, good action on that one as well. He also has a 5-string, but I think that one's he's doing some work on that right now. But he just got the congos redone, so he's got a fresh set of congos at the house over there. So Jeff was having fun with those, and I was playing around with those a little bit too. We always like to mix things up a little when we go out there. We got some things recorded when we went out on Wednesday.
Oh, but anyway,
congas. yeah, it's fun. Mix it around, but yes, the P bass, or sorry, I should say the J bass is is my main that I have here, and the difference between them when I've played the two, again, it comes down to the individual instrument as to the feel and how smooth it plays and the action and all of that comes down to an individual instrument.
And she also mentioned the amplifier,
Sure.
the amplifier in which one did she say it was?
For which tone? She was probably doing one
I
of
think it was the Marcus.
Okay. Yeah.
the
That
Marco.
it had a preamp in it. Yeah. They gave
Had
extra
a
low end.
yeah had a preamp that.
Yep. So that would be
she-
like an active circuit in there. Whereas with my J
it
bass,
needs a battery.
probably, because if there's a
Oh
circuit,
no,
I would
not
say
for
it needs a battery.
Glenn.
Well, I mean, I am, I definitely am more of a purist as far as I prefer not to have to worry about a battery being in there. But that's also because I had an acoustic electric where I don't know if it was left plugged in or whatever, but the battery did end up corroding inside the instrument, and I have to still double check on it to see how it's doing. It's been over at a friend's for a while, so I plan to check on it though, because I'm thinking about bringing that one out to the open mics that we do. So might start playing some guitar, do a couple, do a set of a couple of acoustic songs with me playing acoustic and singing for open mic coming up. But in the meantime, we have more bass stuff to go through, because that was definitely some good stuff there.
Well, yes, and now we're to the playlist that I had the toughest time.
Yes, indeed, I'm sure.
Because I could go through all of these. I mean, I love slap bass.
Yep.
I know you're not supposed to do it all the time, but I love when they do it and when they do it right.
And I think you found the right video too, because I think if this is what I'm thinking of, it's got the the beginner, intermediate, boss level, so it's got definitely a lot of some different levels of achievement to get to it. Like you get that first level, yeah, okay, and then you get to that second level, you're like, maybe, and the third level, you're like, what?
Yeah, you go from a love tap to a full smack.
And it also depends if you get all the way into like the double thump and all that. There's a lot of different things you can do, but the main thing comes down to usually like hitting through the string as opposed to trying to bounce off the string. But it depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
And this is where the technique lends itself to good timing and percussive mentality.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you're kind of playing a role of almost like a drummer.
Oh yeah, it's very percussive for sure, and a lot of it with you don't even realize when you first start out, but some of it is muting with the fretting hand, and some of it is muting with the picking hand. So like you might only hit like one actual fretted note, like bow, and then you might be doing like a da, da, and there's like 3 different times you're hitting things where you're actually like tapping, with the fretting hand, you're tapping the strings, and then you're tapping the strings again with the picking hand, and then you're tapping them again with the fretting hand, and then you're hitting another note. So you're only worrying about what note you're hitting every, in that case, once every 5 times you're hitting it, or once every 4 times you're hitting it is where you're actually hitting a note, and then you're just going like da 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 da, and you're just getting those sounds in. So once you start getting those into a pattern, da 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 da, then you're starting to build something up from there.
Yeah, it really is a technique where both hands are busy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you go and do it right, absolutely. So we got how to play slap bass with beginner, intermediate, and boss level. This looks like Ian, right?
Yeah, I think this is an Ian one.
Nice. Let's see how to do it.
I know why you're here. You want to slap the bass. And of course you do, right? It's so much fun. In the right context and over the right tune, there's absolutely nothing better. My name is Ian Martin Allison with SBL, and today I am going to show you how to slap the bass. We're going beginner, intermediate, and boss level. Let's go. Now, my guess is this isn't the first slap bass YouTube video that you've watched. I mean, there are so many out there, right? All telling you probably a variety of different things, the best ways, best practices, how to approach slapping the bass. And of course, a bunch of them are really great, but I am not going to take you through a whole host of different techniques. I am just going to show you what I think is the best one. So let's do it. Here's how to slap the bass, okay? What I do is I take my thumb, and instead of going up at an angle like this or down at an angle like this, I go absolutely parallel to the string, and then I strike through the string, right?
using that bone of your thumb, or maybe even slightly in front, and landing on that little bit of wood right after your last fret. And trying to get a nice consistent sound across all the strings. And if you can do that, then it leaves you in a great position for boss level, which is coming back up, called double thumb.
Yes! That's awesome!
Now that's the thumping part, or the slapping part, right? But we can't forget about the plucking or popping part. Use one of these two fingers. I'm weird. I like to do it with my first finger on the A and D string, and then my second finger on the G string. I don't know why. It's just what feels comfortable to me. And just pull. That's a pretty easy sound to make. And then on the G string, I use my second finger. First up is one of my favorite slap bass lines, played by none other than Larry Graham of Sly and the Family Stone. In 1969, this tune was recorded. Thank you for letting me be myself. And it may be the first recorded example of thumping and plucking together in one tune. Now, I said this was going to be beginner level, and this actually isn't all that easy to get under your fingers because the rhythm is kind of tricky, right? But it is such a classic example, the first example. And if you're going to slap the bass, you got to start with Larry Graham. Key of E, short notes, all thumbed up to the E from B. That's the beginning. B, D, E. Then we're going to pluck. That's going to be plucking on the E, down to the D, back up to the E. So first phrase. And then that is the second phrase, just D to E, plucking E to D. So here are the first two phrases together. And then the first one again. And then the fourth phrase is different. Oh, and that, I love that part so much. You slide into a D, play that open E, let it ring over the top. And a lot of people, I feel like, don't play that quite right. And I love letting that E ring. Woo! So here's the whole thing a little slower. Next on the list, intermediate level, is Flea with the Red Hot Chili Peppers playing Stevie Wonder's tune, Higher Ground, off of Mother's Milk. And just check out this classic Letterman performance. Will Lee in the background singing BGVs like on the floor with the band. It's great. Check it out. Flea with that Stingray just starting out the tune so bold, like perfect tempo. He's such a beast. Here's the riff, and then I'll break it down for you. So good, and this actually is derived from the triplet grid, right? Instead of 1 E and a, 2 E and a from like the standard like rock 16th note grid, this is derived from triplet, 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 triplet. So right away we're playing open E, 1 La Li 2, 1 La Li 2, 1 Li 2. And Flea is sort of playing like two open strings, but I think when it's fast, almost that second stroke feels like a dead note. So what I think makes it sound cleaner is if you play open, dead thumb, then pull, right? And then 2 thumps on G, 2 thumps on A, and then the pop on the octave. But again, thump, dead, pop, thump, dead, pop. And then that second phrase on the A, he just switches the pop around, right? So instead of going, it's thumb, pop, thumb. So good. Now you might be saying, whoa, slow down there, Allison. The transcription's moving by mighty quick. Is there a PDF workbook I can get my hands on? Yes, there is. Of course there is. We always do that for you here at SBL, right? There is a beautiful PDF workbook in the description that you can download absolutely free. And while you're doing that, why not give SBL a look? Have you taken the 14-day free trial yet? We have a gazillion courses, seminars, a campus with all of these like-minded players coming together, challenging each other. Scott and I co-lead a program on the campus called Student Focus, where you can submit stuff to us for our personal feedback. And I almost forgot about Player's Path, which is this incredible graded performance system where you pick a level to start and then you get to see your progress as you improve. You learn how to read, you learn how to play over different styles of music. It's unbelievable. Combine that with deep discounts on gear to SBL members and frequent bass hangs and bass giveaways, you have absolutely no reason not to check it out. Last but certainly not least, are you ready for boss level? Then I give to you Victor Lamont Wooten. That Fodera with the tram? 1992 Zubas. When I first saw this, I was like, what is happening? Victor Wooten is playing one of the coolest slap techniques in the world. And it took me forever to get this down. That's why I call this boss level. It looks so simple, but it really isn't. But listen, check this out. I've set you up for success by not bouncing away from the string and playing through the string with your thumb. You are now prepared to go up with the thumb, right? So Victor is playing this groove, and this is blazing tempo with a little bit of a swing. So gnarly, but let me slow it down for you, okay? He's playing this. So all the things are coming together, right? And we're adding some up thumbs. One other thing that I want to point out is there's a left hand slap in this tune. That is where you take your left hand and just drop it on the string, not fretting a note, not this, just dropping it on the string, making it make a percussive click sound. So the beginning, hammer on from D to E, and then open E string. And then we're going to play a dead left hand thump. So hammer on, open E, left hand slap. Now we're going to play another hammer on from D to E, and then we're going to go up with our thumb on G. After we pop the G with our up thumb, we're going to play two dead notes down, up on the A string, followed by an E. And that is essentially the ostinato for the whole riff. Hey, did you have fun? Because I sure did. I hope now you have a better understanding of how to approach this cool technique of slapping the bass, right? You should know now how to go down with your thumb, maybe potentially up with your thumb, how to do a hammer on, how to do a pluck, how to do a dead left hand slap. All of these things now you get to combine into your own tunes and grooves, letting the giants of the technique and of the genre lead the way and inspire you along your journey. I have been Ian Martin Allison for SBL, and I'll see you in the shed.
Yes, indeed. Definitely some good stuff. I mean, the boss level is for sure boss level. Victor Wooten, no better candidate for the boss level stuff there. But the elements that we talked about, right? That left hand slap, that little dead, whoop, makes a big difference.
Slap my bass up.
Slapping the bass.
You know, they went from Sly and the Family Stone to Flea to Wooten. That really was boss level evolution.
Yep. Picking 3 good examples, something to get you just like dive in with and get you started, but getting you comfortable with the technique. But that whole up and down thumb action is definitely important. And that was one where in a video I saw with Victor Wooten, I think it was a Groove Workshop was one of his videos that he had there, where he talked about different techniques. Or in one case, he was talking about a song that he would play that it was a long song that was relatively repetitive, but it was, if you're doing the same thing over and over for an 8-minute song, let's say, you might not want to always have to play it with these 2 fingers. Like you might want to have to, like, sometimes it's going to be with the wrist, sometimes it'll be with the shoulder, sometimes it'll be from the elbow. Like he can manage to get the same amount of intensity and sound and consistency of sound, no matter which way he's trying to play it. But he can play it in different ways to not burn out and to not, not tire yourself out in playing it one way versus another. But it's good to be able to play all those ways with all the different dynamics and to be able to get comfortable with that. So.
Well, and isn't it so useful to see it in slow motion, like the tab, the way that they present it? Like those are really good lessons for something that really sounds very complex. Where's the pop? Where's the tap? Where the way that they lay it out in the tab and walk through it first, feel it out, and then speed it up as you go.
Yeah. And also just understanding in general with popping and slapping style like that a lot of the times you're dealing with the root, the flat 7, and the octave. So that that the octaves are going to be big. So you're going to always have octaves in there. Like pops a lot of times are going to be the octave that you're trying to hit. Sometimes it'll be a 5th, but a lot of times it'll be the octave. So it's, once you get comfortable with that and once you get that move down, it's like, okay, well, that worked for this song, but what about other songs? It's like, you'd be surprised at how many, any other time you hear that move going on, you'll recognize it in the future. Go, oh, wait, I heard that, like, boom, ba-da. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny that, like, Flea was in the intermediate until I saw that, like, Wooten was the, I was like, okay, because I'd be like, Flea, he's boss level, and
oh yeah. And I wouldn't want to put the 2 of them against each other. It's not like they're saying, oh, Flea is here and Wooten's there. It's more of a, that song from Flea was a good example of an intermediate level, slapping tune. It was.
Well, I had never known just how complex slap bass could be until you showed me Wooten. Like I was just flabbergasted that there's a bassist like that out there.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna be looking more at him in a little bit.
Oh yeah. And I mean, Vic, I believe he was been playing bass since he was, a toddler, essentially. Just, like bass straight through, like just, he was the family bass player from when he was, getting started with everything. If I remember my Wooten history correctly, but just amazing, just with that much experience and the ability to, like, he could play full entire songs just using the harmonics on the bass. Like he plays Amazing Grace just using harmonics, not actually like fretting actual notes, but for the most part, just playing those beautiful high ringing harmonics on a bass. And it's almost always on a 4-string bass.
I swear he's a bass mutant.
he's a magician for sure. And that's, and we're not trying to downplay, how good Flea is either. I mean, but I think the example of that song that they chose was like an intermediate versus,
it's a good one when you're looking at the Flea slap style. It's a good one to try to pick up before you go trying to do, some of the crazier shit that Flea would do.
Yeah. And like you said, good charts, good way to show it on the screen, to show you what's going on, doing it slow. And then as he speeds it up, and all of a sudden you realize it is the whole, the same phrase you were just listening to, just slowed down to a digestible level.
Yeah. Does other bass tab typically look like that?
It depends what you're doing.
Or are they kind of tabbing it out on their own like that?
It depends on what you say. Like as far as the thumb stuff, like if you're doing up and down thumb, that's something that they might have a specific way of tabbing out. It's something that they would, let you know what you're trying to do with that, rather than just having it as the notes. And sometimes they'll do with like guitar stuff. It'll be up and down picking. Like they'll show you which way you should be picking. If you're picking down and then up, they'll show you where the upstrokes are. You can do the same with the bass tab.
So I like how they presented it. I mean, even not being a bassist, I could understand it. I could read it.
Exactly. But the importance is that it's all there, and that you can like watch as he's actually hitting it and see what exactly all the elements are that are coming together there.
Yeah, it is nice actually seeing it in action along with the tab like that. Much faster to pick it up than trying to just do it from the tab alone.
Yeah, and that's where people a lot of times could struggle with that kind of thing, because if they're looking at the tab alone, they're trying to look at the tab, interpret it, and then they're just basically doing like a duh, da, di, da, and it's like doesn't sound like an actual musical thing. So that it to speed that all up to takes a little bit more effort and time.
I like with the bass, it's easier for me to see what their hands are really doing and where they're hitting versus like sometimes when I'm watching what a guitarist is doing, sometimes like the claws, it's hard to pinpoint what's going on sometimes, but with the bass, it's much more distinct, like what frets they're on and which strings they're hitting. It's easier to follow.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where you get the importance of being able to translate or see it in different modes. Sometimes it'll click easier when you see it while you're hearing it or watching it happen at the same time, going from slow to fast.
Yeah. Great
Well
one
done.
for that playlist. Slap bass lessons. Anybody out there who wants to get better at slap, go to this playlist.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff like that right there.
Yeah. Our next one is
gadgets.
A playlist I could not avoid, given like we're gear whores here. And like you got to be wondering what Scott uses for his effects chain. That's always inquiring minds want to know over here.
Oh, yeah. And it depends, and the real answer is it depends on the situation, because if you're doing just a recording session, you might want to go just super clean going in. And if you want to, if you're going on stage for a specific type of a sound, then you might need more effects, like that envelope filter that she was going through in that last video a little while ago. Was basically similar to the baseball pedal that I have over here that we played, or that
the one that had that bounce, that like
the bounce to it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And,
I like that one.
That's why I like to see these kind of gear setups from like what they feel is the pedals that they want to have with them for a gig, and doesn't mean they're using them all at once, but they're there for a reason. It's like Batman's utility belt.
Yeah. And how much of it is crafting? Like if you have room on the pedal board, you've got a compressor on there, you've got an EQ on there, multi-band EQ. Some people, they'll always have a tuner on there so that they can just click the tuner and that mutes the signal, so that they can then put the guitar down, whatever. When they pick it back up, they can just tune real quick and then go.
Yeah, and some of those, make sense. It's like, oh, yes, you should have some kind of EQ and a compressor based on, what instrument you're doing. But when they get into the the effects choices, and whether they have the balls, the big muff.
Yep, exactly. It depends what they're using for the boost and all of that, for sure. And I've seen, again, guitar players that play with a minimal pedals, and like almost none or none. I've seen people who play with a bunch of pedals, but I've seen a bass player who plays with almost 30 pedals on his board, because he has, he's doing an 80s sound, so he's trying to do a bunch of different synthesizer stuff, so he can do synth sounds. He does voice sounds. He has like that the Peter Frampton, I guess you'd call it, the
talk box.
Talk box. Yeah. So he has that kind of a sound. So he's covering a lot of ground with what he's got in his rig over there. So
the songs they cover, covers a lot of ground in music.
Exactly. And in this case, this is about a bass pedal board setup. So we're going to see what Scott has to say about setting up a bass pedal board.
Yeah, what would Scott do?
Hey guys, how's it going? Scott here from Scott's Bass Lessons again. Sorry for this weird angle that I'm recording this at. I just wanted to fit all my pedal board in and me. So this is the best thing I could come up with. So this video is about my pedal board. I get asked a lot of questions about what gear I use, so I thought I'd just do one specifically on what pedals I use. I don't use every pedal on every gig. I've got, you know, different pedals that I like for different gigs. So, but I do cart this around with me everywhere, unfortunately. So I've always got, you know, a pedal for different situations. So the pedal board goes like this. Bass into normally a tuner. It's not in there at the minute, but it's just a normal Boss chromatic tuner. And these are great because obviously with stage lights and stuff like that, your bass can go out of tune, so it's important to be able to tune on the fly. And if you hit this, it mutes your bass in between songs, and you can tune without the dreaded, you know, in between songs, so you can't have that. So this is what this is used for. Then I go into a Boss line selector. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So forget about the line selector for now. From the line selector I go into an Octave OC2, which is a Boss. Now this I use generally for sort of like a synthy bass sound. They're really popular with bass players. Loads of guys use them, and there's a setting that everybody seems to use. On the pedal there's an octave 1 and an octave 2. Octave 1 on the left, octave 2 sorry on the left, and octave 1 on the right. So octave 2 you have all the way off, octave 1 all the way up, and then the direct level, which is your normal bass signal, you turn that all the way off. Okay, so my clean signal sounds like this. With the octave on, you can hear it's a great synth bass sound now. Tracks really well. The only problem is if you play down here it just turns into utter mud, so you've got to sort of, you know, play around the 12th fret. You can get away with the C on the E string. It kind of gets muddy as you go down there. So that's what I use the octave to. So clean signal again. Octave 2 on. Now the distortion is a DS1 Boss, and I don't particularly use this on its own. I only use it to give the octave a little bit more bite, so I'm using that synth sound with the octave, the distortion on, sorry. Gives it that, you know, even more of a synthy bass sound. That's what I use that for. So that's these two pedals. So I usually either use the octave on its own or both on at the same time, and that's great because they're next to each other and I can tread on them together. Next in line is the Mark Bass synth pedal, which I'll just get the level right because the level might be a bit too loud. It's a real keyboardy sound. Real Stevie Wonder, you know, 70s keyboard sound. I do have issues with this. You have to plug it into your computer to really be able to mess around with the parameters via USB. So I'm not really into that because I like to do it on a gig, and I don't particularly want to carry a laptop around into gig situations and sort of have to fiddle around like that. So I think this is going to have to go and be replaced with something else that I'm kind of searching for at the minute. And with that, you can play down here. The tracking's quite well. So that's what I use that for. Now, next to this is the Mooga Fuga low pass filter. Can you see that? There you go. Mooga Fuga low pass filter, which is a low pass filter. There you go, strangely enough. And I control this with this Roland foot pedal here, which looks like a wah-wah pedal, but it isn't. And this works great in conjunction with the Mark bass. Okay, so what I'm going to have to stand up now just to show you what it does. Hopefully I'll be out of the way of the video, or my feet won't be anyway. So if I put the low pass filter on, okay, and then put my foot on this wah-wah looking type pedal, it does this basically. Let's turn that up a little bit. You can really hear that. Yeah, so you get that. That kind of thing. And then that goes into the TC. Oh, hang on, I'll get back down. That goes into the TC electronic flashback, which I use for delays. I'd really like a pedal where it has a delay pedal where it has presets. The problem with this pedal for me is, and it's nothing to do with TC, it's my fault, I bought the wrong pedal. This has got knobs, so if any of the knobs get knocked or anything like that, it means the speed of the actual delay changes. So if I'm playing in a song where the delay needs to be a part of the actual bass line, so instead of using it just for an effect, I'm using it within the bass line. If I knock one of these knobs, the speed goes off, and you know, all that kind of thing. Blech. Bad stuff happens basically. So I'm going to replace that with maybe something else that TC make, or another delay pedal that I can just have presets and it's just digital, and I know when I switch on the button it'll be a certain tempo. So, and then what else is next? Oh, now we've got the Octabass over here. Now what I need to tell you about is the line selector. On some of the gigs I do, it's kind of dubby, reggae or dubstep kind of vibe. Now, one thing that's really important in that style of music is to keep the bottom end of the bass line, and unfortunately when I've got all these things on here, the bottom end of the actual signal kind of gets zapped. So what I do is I split my signal via this line selector here. So I go into the line selector and come out of the line selector, which takes me through here, or this set of effects. Then that goes to my amp or to the out front of the desk or something like that. And then the other output that comes out of the line selector goes into the Octabass pedal here, EBS Octabass. And what I'll do is I'll show you both signals. So for instance, just on my this signal I've got here is this. Oh, let's turn that down a bit. Is there. That's just there, but I can turn that all the way down. So that's gone. And then my other signal is this one. So that's just sub bass. So that's going on all the time, unaffected when all these are on. So now I can mix the two. So this is the two signals mixed, okay? So the, well, I'll just play it. So signal 1, signal 2, and then both of them mixed. And then you can use that in conjunction with the Mooga Fuga, and then I'll put the flashback on and we should have quite a cool effect. So I've got, right now I've got the two signals mixed. I'll be using the synth bass through the Moog with the flashback on as well, the delay, so we get this kind of sound. And that's it. So that's what I use. Think about adding some other stuff in and taking it out, but that's pretty much it as it is at the minute. Hopefully you enjoyed this, not a lesson, but this demonstration of what I use. And if you haven't checked out Scott's Bass Lessons yet, do so. There's loads of wicked lessons on there, and if you subscribe you'll get sent a load of exclusive videos as well and other goodies. So I'll see you soon, take it easy and get in the shed.
Oh, get in the shed.
In the
with
shed.
Scott.
Yeah.
That last tone that he had
Mhm.
would work so awesome with Dazed and Confused.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The way he was like using the wah-wah
Mhm.
with that tone would make a whole creepier version of that song.
Yeah, no, he gave great examples of how to work with, and again, keeping it relatively minimal in terms of the number of pieces in the pedal board, but showing why he has all of them in there. I was laughing because that orange pedal was the first pedal I had for my guitar, the distortion pedal. And I'm not even sure if it's around here somewhere. I'm pretty sure. My buddy Mike was talking about you can send it away and have them make a custom modification to it, and make the circuit even better. But if this works for for bass, that's good. Some people would use like that the bass Big Muff we talked about. The bass Big Muff, this one.
No, and that one's green.
The
and
green.
approved.
Exactly. The green bass Big Muff pie. But that's one that's you see people, guitar players or bass players, and a lot of times even a guitar player will be looking for the bass version of this pedal.
Well, I like how he incorporated synth in his pedals to like that one over to the left that he had a nice clavy kind of it did have that Stevie Wonder kind of synth bass feel.
Yeah. Was that the one on the far left or the one next to it? Because the one
it was like the second to the left.
Yeah. Because that one he was saying the thing he didn't like about it was you have to hook it to the computer in order to make adjustments and things like that.
Yeah, that's the one where like the modifications. And true, when you're on the road, you don't want to depend on a computer there.
Mhm.
Even
Or
as me
come
as a
down to the point where-
keyboardist, I wouldn't want to bring a laptop on stage.
Right. And I have worked with keyboardists who do. They just have it built into their setup where on the, they have their keyboard stand and then they have like a little shelf above the keyboard on the side there where they have a laptop, because they don't have to use the laptop all the time, but they use it to select different sounds. Like if you were doing Hell's Bells, for example, he would have the bell sound or whatever, they'd have each of those. The other one that we talked about earlier was the this guy, the baseballs, is the one that's the envelope filter that's similar to when we were watching the video earlier.
I've got baseballs.
the
He's
bounce.
got baseballs.
the bounce sound of the baseballs, yeah.
And he made a good point on that delay. When it comes to analog delays, especially knobs in that situation, when the delay is part of the song and it's key to have it set to a very specific tempo, I'd rather have a digital one with presets than go with that situation where knob got jarred and the song sounds all over the place.
It's also tricky. There's one who is it? Is it Stevie Nicks maybe? There's one in particular where the bass part is just basically 16th notes, which is like
oh yeah, just like Edge of 17.
Yeah, thank you. And with that one, I've seen bass players, even bass. I think it might have been like one of the ones who has the larger pedal boards where they have a bunch of stuff going on there, and he was using a delay effect to do that so that he could just play the note once and have it, just the tail of the echo, which is and it would keep that going for him. So he could just hit like once, once every measure instead of having to go back and forth all that much. But getting that timing just right on the tap tempo is really tricky. So like it starts to fade away, like it starts to move away from like, gets faster or slower than the drums. And that's a problem. So you have to get it very, very specific when you're stomping on that tap tempo. You got to get it just right.
You could have that same problem with Heart's Barracuda or
Exactly.
crazy on you.
Yep, exactly. And those are good examples. The same kind of thing. But that's where, like, to me, I see where it could be useful to do that. But at the same time, for those songs, if I was playing them live, I probably wouldn't want to count on a pedal for that. I would probably just, grin and bear it, and you get a pick and just and just play it the whole way through.
Yeah, and one thing I really liked about his chain setup, at the beginning, he had the ability to send out the signal, get processed through everything, and override it right to the end. Two outputs on the beginning like that gives you some flexibility to override the chain and go straight to that final box.
Exactly. And that's one place where one of the things that I have in my pedal board as well is the SansAmp Tech 21 SansAmp pedal, which is the one that allows me to...
It's got 2 outs?
It does have 2 outs. It has one that's like a bypass, and then one that's, goes through and is processed by what's there. Plus, I can also have it hooked up through XLR, so I can be getting phantom power from the board, so I don't have to have a battery in it. Or
a lot of versatility.
Yeah, and it also is able to take the lowest end of the signal. There's toggles for taking, like, I think it's 50 hertz up to 100, or it might be 40 hertz up to 80. But it's able to take some of those low signals, like my low B string, some of those low sounds, and it's able to mimic them. Give you kind of an upper harmonic, an octave above, in order to get those sounds to ring out properly, rather than losing them like you would if you don't have big speakers. Like that low B string, you won't hear it much if you don't have a 15-inch speaker. If you're only using 210s, for example, that low B string's not too loud. But if you go through that pedal first, it actually gives you more presence from those low notes you're hitting.
Yeah. And the cool thing with the way he was using it here, it allows him to blend both tones.
Yes.
Get that sweet spot where you've got this clean signal being processed there, and you've got your chain signal, and get it to right where you want it.
Yeah. My other thought for the dual out that I really like is the fact that if I wanted to just, I have my regular bass setup that I'm doing everything normally with, but I take that second output and I can send it as a monitor for like the drummer. So I could have like a smaller speaker or a different speaker, and it could be like his speaker over there, and I could be sending the right to him so that he, so that I can have my regular signal pumping out wherever I need to and still have something pointed at whoever I need to in the band.
Yeah, smart routing and patching when it comes to things, super important no matter what instrument you play. We'll definitely have to have a routing night.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
Mm-hmm. Now, some people say, you have to play with your fingers, but some people say you have to play with a pick.
Well, yes, this is an argument we've had.
And I mean, I've always, I started learning bass by playing fingerstyle, but I'd also played guitar before that a little bit, and, have picked up the ability to play both fingerstyle and with a pick. And I prefer fingerstyle most of the time, because then there's no, if you drop a pick and you don't have another one in hand right there, do you stop immediately? Does it affect your playing? Do you have to change things all of a sudden? But if you don't have a pick at all, you don't have to worry about it. You can't drop your fingers, So like that's one in the win, column for me for the fingers in my that's why I prefer fingers over the pick. But certain sounds, certain tones, you do need the pick, and to play at certain speeds, it's probably better to not burn your fingers out and just use a pick to.
Yeah, and that's really where it starts to come down to is tone and speed, and whether the pick lends itself to what you're trying to accomplish there. We covered pick. We had a pick night, but it was focused on guitar that particular night, and it's nice. Now we're going to get to see it from the bass perspective, where there's different considerations.
Exactly.
And this one came from the Ian playlist.
Nice. Yeah.
Which I knew I'd already had a couple from Ian, but the cool thing is some of them that I'd wanted to use in the other playlists. Like this gave me a chance to get that second one in, which was this pick one.
Yeah. Should you play with the pick? Let's end the argument for good.
Yeah. End this bullshit argument.
Right now.
Oh no. It's in there forever. My name is Ian Martin Allison for SBL, and today we're going to dig into something a little bit controversial. And I am going to make an impassioned plea for you to get your pick chops together. Are you ready? Oh boy. Oh! knew that this little piece of plastic could cause so much controversy? I mean, we're all familiar with that sort of like young bass player mentality. Maybe we've even had it ourselves, right? Coming up wanting to differentiate ourselves from guitar players, right? So there's this thing of like, real bass players have to play with their fingers, right? You can't be funky with a pick. Like, pick playing is only for guitar players. Well, I am here to dispel that myth and show you 3 genres of music that have fantastic bands and bass players that use a pick. And never fear, all of the tab and notation will be presented in a lovely PDF workbook that the incredible team at Scott's Bass Lessons puts together for these YouTube videos, absolutely free. Link is in the description, check it out. The first style of music we're gonna talk about is funk. And if you're like, Ian, can pick players be funky? I cannot wait to show you these next 2 songs. First up is 1973, the OJ's Anthony Jackson, who is typically known for playing a 6-string bass and leaning in the jazz direction, is playing on this incredible funk tune. And I wanted to start with this tune because it is just so funky and cool. This whole thing, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 16th notes, downs on the 1s and the ands, ups on the E's and the U's. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, right? So the whole thing's slow. But Anthony leaves this cool space. Is it even possible to get funkier than Anthony Jackson on For the Love of Money? Maybe so. SBL, will you cut to some Bobby Vega? Bobby Vega is one of my favorite pick players of all time. I was so inspired the first time I saw him play, wanted to track down everything he had recorded on, and he played on Sly Stone's tune, 1975, High on You. Oh, it's so fun and funky, and that bass line drives that entire song. The next genre of music that I want to talk about in terms of pick playing is rock and roll. Punk rock specifically. And you're like, Ian, we know that punk rockers play with a pick. I know, of course we all know that, right? But I want you to consider, if you haven't already, that this is an art form, just like any other. The sound, the attitude, the vibe, it is all part of the genre, and it deserves respect and attention. Check it out, 1980, The Clash, London Calling. So I'm changing my grip slightly for this style. For the funk stuff, I'm holding it right in between my thumb and index finger like this. But for this rock and roll vibe, I am switching it more to like a guitar player grip. So I'm just slightly curling my index finger over, right? And then I'm holding the pick at just a bit of an angle. Little overdrive. And then kind of digging in. And there's this cool rebound when you play up here. It's kind of like the more modern metal thing, like the Dark Glass Dingwall vibe, right? Where you're striking the string. Hey, before we move on to this last genre, let me ask you, what are some pick players that you would love to see get their due on the SBL YouTube channel? Leave them in the comments below. I read this stuff. I would love to know who you would like to see featured. Hey, next, I want to talk to you about jazz.
Welcome to Jazz Club. Superb.
There are two incredible pick players that I know of that came from a jazz background. Carol Kaye, who then eventually became part of the Wrecking Crew and moved into making pop records, and then Steve Swallow, who has one of the most unique, incredible voices on the instrument. Let's check them both out. Okay, let's first take a look at Carol Kaye and the amazing bass line she played on Brian Wilson's tune, Good Vibrations. It's 1965, the Beach Boys.
I love the colorful clothes you wear,
short, plunky sound,
and the way the sunlight plays upon her hair. I hear the sound of a gentle wind on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me excitations.
And so what I'm doing to get this sound is I have a little bit of spring reverb on, and I'm playing palm muted back here. Now Carol puts a piece of foam back by her bridge, but I just like to use my palm, right? And then I'm flat picking on flat wound strings, a lot of flat going on here, right? So I'm not at an angle, and there's not much scrape that happens on flats anyway, but with the palm mute and a little bit of spring reverb playing super flat on flat wound strings, you get this sound. Now, the last pick player that I want to highlight has cultivated the most unique, wonderful sound with a pick on an electric bass in jazz. This is an amazing performance of Steve playing in 1974 with the legendary jazz vibraphonist Gary Burton. Just how delicate he is. A really unique thing about the way Steve approaches the bass and approaches the pick is he plays a lot of upstrokes, right? So he's not playing, obviously, right? He's playing it in more of a melodic way. And so he uses an upstroke to get this really nice soft sound. So in terms of an exercise for Steve Swallow, you could spend your entire life devoted to uncovering his style and his playing. But what I'm going to do is give you a very simple chord example. Okay, if you've never played 2-note voicings or 3-note voicings or chords on your bass, let's start now. Grab your bass. You should have it in your hands. You should have had it in your hands this whole time. Let's do this. We're going to play thirds up an octave, so tenths. Diatonically, that just means through a scale in the key of G major. Now I've put on a little bit of spring reverb and tremolo because I really love this sound, and I'm going to play a downstroke with my pick on the root, and then upstroke on the 10th. Diatonically, so major, the A is minor, the B is minor, the C is major, the D is major, E minor, F sharp minor, G major. And I don't want you to think about time. I'm usually a real stickler for time. Did you know that about me? I'm like, turn on your metronome, get to it. But this, let's think about this in more of a free space. Let's think about this more in a melodic space. Skip 1, go back to the 2, go to the 4, 3, 5, 4, 6. Maybe write out a sequence of numbers and play them. Let's say 1, 2, 7, 6. 1, 2, 7, 6. Well, that's nice. Resolve. Oh, and suddenly an exercise becomes music. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hopefully now you see that pick playing, it's not just for rockers, it's not just for one genre of music. It can be funky, it can be gorgeous. It's for everyone, right? It's for you. I have been Ian Martin Allison for SBL. Get your pick playing together, and I'll see you in the shed.
Obviously, massive shout out to Mr. Allison there for rocking the pick chops. And I just wanted to give you a super quick shout to let you know that we're running a massive bass giveaway right now. We're giving away over $30,000 worth of bass equipment. This amazing fretless F bass, this fantastic P bass, this John Patitucci signature, this F bass over here, and a bunch of other basses that you are going to want to check out. This giveaway is completely free to enter. All you need to do is click the link below this video or just go to scottsbassgiveaway.com and you will find it there. Now with that said, take it easy and I'll see you in the shed.
Oh, and as you can see, they are constantly giving away great gear.
Absolutely. And those tenths, that's one I was looking at. That's one of my favorites. Like, that's something I picked up recently, I guess last couple of years. But those tenths and doing that little exercise he was just talking about right there, it's one of those things that I'll do like almost any practice. Like when I'll get my bass tuned up and then I'll just, hit a couple of those. And usually like anybody who I'm playing with, they're just like, "Ooh, wait, what was that?" And it's like, it's just, playing a tenth like that actually just gives you, a root note, and it gives you a major or minor feel. So it gives you enough, it gives you just enough to figure out, what to do with that.
And like he said, don't worry about the time there. Just feel them out.
Exactly. Does it feel happy? Does it feel sad? Does it feel rushed? Does it feel slow? Like, it's your time. Do what you want.
Oh, and I'm convinced that picking is just as important. He started with the funk, going with I love the examples we're hearing tonight. They pick awesome ones to get a bassist motivated for these techniques. I forgot how great the bass for Beach Boys was.
Yeah, exactly. When people mentioned Carol Kay, I was like, and then I listened back and I was like, oh man, yeah. Like that beginning part, I don't think I had originally recognized that the sound at the beginning of there was bass played so high.
Yeah.
When I first heard it when I was younger, I thought it was guitar or whatever, but yeah.
Same here. And with the Beach Boys, you're always thinking like you get caught up in the vocal harmonies and things that they do. You forget like that there was some kick-ass bass and guitar going on in the back.
Oh yeah. And then once it gets going, it's got that nice rolling groove to it for sure.
And he didn't ignore, the punk and rock and where, picking is more traditional, but he showed that it covers all grounds.
Yeah. And I have started just keeping a pick in my pocket for whenever I'm hanging out and playing, just because again, sometimes it's a thing where it's better to, if it's a repetitive thing we're going to be playing, and if it's not too complicated, I can just sit there and change to the pick and it doesn't really change the sound that much. But certain things that you have to have the fingers to do, the pop and slap, obviously, but you also need it for certain sounds to dig in kind of more. And just certain phrases that come off the fingers more cleanly for me, if you're using fingers. But then, there's times where, again, the speed is more important. So you can get like, you can get those kinds of things happening with a pick more easily.
Well, with those early examples, with the money and the Sly Stone example, you can hear how the pick is kind of crucial to get that chukka.
Oh yeah.
That you really couldn't pull that off with your fingers and get the same kind of drive there.
Well, for those actually, if I do need a chukka sound, I basically go back to what I was saying with the guitar, where I use the back of the fingernails and just basically mute the strings with my left hand and just kind of come down through the strings with the fingernails, chukka, and go from there. So I can get kind of a muted sound like that, but it's not the same for sure.
Well, and he showed like different approaches when he mentioned the foam. He was like, well, you could do it. She did it that way, and he showed an alternate approach.
Exactly. And it's again so that you can do it, with what you have on hand, which is, you've got your hand, just, palm mute over here, and you can, you realize you're trying to go all the way to the back of the string so that you're barely muting, and then you come forward a little bit to get to the appropriate or desired level of muting coming on there.
Yeah, you may lose all your picks, but hopefully you don't lose your hand.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to get comfortable with playing that way. Absolutely.
So that came from our Ian Allison playlist.
Yep.
And now we're going into the guest artist portion, because there have been so many great guests on Scott's channel that I could have done the whole damn show just on the guests, and I had to keep it down to 4, which was not easy in itself. But the ones that ended up getting selected, I think, are some of the coolest, most impressive guests that he's had on. Especially the first one, you know, we've already mentioned this guy, and a monster in modern bass. I mean, he is already a legend.
Absolutely. And there's a reason for that. And it's partly because of the way he plays. So let's see what we got for Victor Wooten top 10.
He's a mutant.
Mutant for sure. With the double thumb technique. Double thumb.
How ridiculously cool is Victor Wooten? What an absolute dude. Now, before we go any further, let me know in the comments, when was your first time? Like, not your first time, obviously. I mean, like the first time you heard Victor Wooten. Let me know in the comments. My first time was probably on Bass Day 98. Remember that VHS video? How cool was that? Now, I was lucky enough to meet Victor. In fact, he came out and hung out in Leeds, and we recorded some stuff for the membership at Scott's Bass Lessons. But today, we are going to go into his top 10, Victor's top 10 hits. So come over here and we'll get into his top 10. Victor Wooten is without doubt one of the most important bass players in the world today. A 5-time Grammy Award winner and one of Rolling Stone's top 10 bassists of all time. He certainly has the chops to put on a show. Now, everyone knows Victor has monster chops. He can slap, he can tap, he can double thumb, open hammer pluck, throw his bass round his neck in the air, but what makes him one of the greats is his awesome musicality. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at the 10 most defining bass lines from his incredible career so far. Up at number 10 is You Can't Hold No Groove. We're going to kick things off with a track that has become something of a signature tune for Victor ever since it appeared on his debut album, A Show of Hands, back in 1996. I can remember buying that album. Aside from showcasing Victor's unbelievable technique, check out the way Victor uses muted notes to really enhance the overall groove. Now, you might not know this, but the album version of You Can't Hold No Groove also features a very, very special guest vocalist, the amazing Will Lee.
Can't hold no groove. If you ain't got no pocket.
Here's a clip from Bass Day 98, and if any of you guys remember the old VHS Bass Day 98, give me your thumbs up in the comments. Boom! Another song I know Victor gets asked about a lot is his thumb melting slap workout, Classical Thump. Victor wrote this song back in the mid-80s as an exercise for some of his thumb techniques he was working on, and finally recorded it on A Show of Hands. It's a really good one to get started with if you're new to Victor's thumb technique. Here's Victor doing his thing. So in at number 8 is Sinister Minister. Victor has been the bass player for Bella Fleck and the Flecktones since the group's formation right back in 1988. And Sinister Minister is undoubtedly the most popular song in the Flecktones setlist. It was recorded for the band's self-titled debut album back in 1990. And this was the first time that Victor really let his unbelievable technique loose on the world. Needless to say, it completely floored bass players everywhere. If you listen, the solo actually incorporates some of his licks from Classical Thump too. Check it out on this clip from Jacksonville Jazz Festival.
Number 7, sex in a pan. Yes, sex in a pan. I've just got to put it out there, the first time I read that title, I didn't jump to mind that it was food related, and I just thought of two really, really uncomfortable individuals. This one is from the Flecktones' 1991 album Flight of the Cosmic Hippo, and actually started out as a solo bass piece that Victor would keep playing at sound checks and rehearsals. It's a great example of Victor's right-hand palm muting technique, which he uses to dampen the strings near the bridge and make it extra funky. It's actually named after a dessert that the band had eaten in North Carolina. Here's a killing version with Victor and the Wooten Brothers. Next up is Vic's 9. Now this is the opener from the Flecktones' 1993 album 3 Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now Victor came up with this track and aptly named it Vic's 9. Now the time signature makes it really difficult to feel, especially in the middle of the tune when it slows to a 3-beat feel. Super weird, but cool. At this point the band were only a 3-piece with Victor's brother Roy on drum guitar, so Victor really pulls out all of the stops to fill out the sound of the band, but never imposing on Bella's banjo solo, but all while keeping things really, really interesting. Here's an amazing clip of that trio in action. So number 5 is Stomping Grounds. According to Victor, he and Bella Fleck wrote this next song, Stomping Grounds, during a sound check in Europe. You can hear it on the Flecktones' 1996 album Live Art. It soon became a crowd favourite, and if you ever get the chance to see the Flecktones play it live, you'll see why. There's just no telling where it will go next, as you'll see in this next clip from their 1996 appearance on the Conan O'Brien Show. Okay, so this is one of my favourites. Number 4 is Norwegian Wood, and I've just got to say the first time I heard this, it blew my face off. Victor started his arrangement of the Beatles' classic Norwegian Wood when he was asked to play a solo piece at the John Lennon fundraiser. He liked it so much that he recorded it on his 1997 solo album, What Did He Say? This is a masterclass in harmonics, two-handed tapping, and how to play chords on the bass. Just check out this performance for Hartkey at the 2010 NAMM show. It is amazing. Okay, we're getting down to the wire now. Number 3 is Snake Soda. While Victor is quite rightly best known for his groundbreaking work with the Flecktones in the mid-90s, he was also part of another awesome fusion group, the Vital Tectones, along Vital Information drummer Steve Smith and Tribal Tech guitarist Scott Henderson. I've just got to personally put it out there as well that that is one of my favourite albums. This band just absolutely kill it. So if you've not checked it out before, get on it. The band never performed live, but they did release 2 mind-blowing instrumental albums, Vital Tectones in 1998 and Vital Tectones 2 in 2000. Taken from their first album, Snake Soda is, as you might expect, a jazz rock fusion tour de force, with Victor taking no prisoners when it comes to his solo. Wrap your ears around this bad boy. Okay, number 2 is The Lesson. Recorded on his 2008 solo album, Palmistry, The Lesson features Victor's brother and fellow Flectone, Roy, Future Man Wooten, on cajon and hand claps. Victor once again demonstrates his unparalleled facility on the bass, playing chords, arpeggios and melody lines, while also strumming in like this kind of sort of like cool flamenco vibe as well. This was the forerunner to Victor's book, The Music Lesson. Check out this impromptu performance for EMG TV. Here we have it, guys. Number 1 is Funky D. With my all-time favourite drummer Dennis Chambers behind the kit and Vic on the bass, you'd expect some incredibly tight grooves, and it doesn't get much tighter than on this track, Funky D. In 2017, Victor teamed up with Dennis Chambers and saxophonist Bob Francoschini to record a new album, Tripnotics. Funky D also features comedian and voice-instrumentalist Michael Winslow. Remember Police Academy? Yeah, you got it. Now, in the absence of Chambers, Victor takes the lead on this duo take for KNKX Public Radio. Hold your hats on. They're about to get blown off. Again, guys, thanks again so much for watching this video. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do so below and switch your notifications on as well, so next time we release one of these bad boys, you'll get notified. If you want to find out more about what the team here do at Scott's Bass Lessons and what we're all about, just go to scottsbasslessons.com and get ready to get blown away. It is the ultimate online bass school for bass players just like yourselves to get your bass playing to the next level. Now, as always, take it easy and I'll see you in the shed.
To the shed.
He blew my hat off.
Big time, right? I mean, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, just having that many layers of stuff going on a bass is crazy.
I know. He's like a one-man band of sound.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He truly is to bass what Andre Segovia was to like acoustic classical guitar, just outer level skills. My jaw drops seeing him in action.
Oh yeah, doing it like few others can.
And all those examples showed so many different techniques. I mean, that fifth one, the tapping like master class he was talking about, just beautiful ambient tapping.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The one in the flamenco style, yeah, had that nice rhythm to it as well.
Yeah, you just don't normally think of bass sounding this way. He's coming up with whole new ways to approach the instrument.
Exactly. And just, not sitting in a box. You know, it's not, oh, you play the bass. Oh, that's the root and the 5. Do your job. No, it's, you know, he's exploring the different sounds that you can get.
And watching him, he's having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most important thing ever. Yeah. Being inspired, you know, having that much fun with it. I mean, if you could play like that, like, you know, like I used to say, like, if I could play like that, I'd never leave the house. You know, I mean, that's about what it comes down to. It's like, it looks like a lot of fun and a lot of exploration to be had, just going through all the stuff that you can do.
See, not only does Scott bring you awesome bass tutorials and lessons, but shows you the bassists that are inspiring. They make you want to go to that next level.
Exactly. Now, instead of Scott and Ian, I think next one we have is Jacob Collier.
Yeah, this is a young gun.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to be talking about something that we have talked about as well in the past, and how I feel like a bassist who can sing is a better bassist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the bass playing probably helps them to be better singers. I feel like there's a compliment there that you can't ignore.
Yeah, yeah. And it also helps that they don't interfere with each other, the vocal line and the bass line. If you're singing and playing bass, you're trying to work the two together. You're thinking of them as one unit, which helps a lot.
And you've mentioned, like, you can feel the bass tone, like, you know, here, and that probably helps as you're trying to find that harmonizing to it.
Sure. And the thing is that what I find difficult is when the timing, essentially, of the notes is very different. Like if the bass is doing a pattern, which it usually is, you know, going through a pattern of some kind that's repetitive, but the note you're singing or the line you're singing doesn't match, or the timing of the line that you're singing doesn't match with the timing of the bass part that you're playing. That's where I have difficulty with it, where sometimes, you know, if I'm trying to sing something that's doing, you know, quick changes, you know, up and down, and the line I'm trying to play is like a steady note and then doom, doom, and then whatever, you know, trying to do something like that, it's more difficult. And so I have to try to, like, if I slow the whole thing down, like, you know, practicing by myself, slow the whole thing down and try to make it all into one thing and then speed it back up to get it back up to speed can help. But
well, and bassists should get comfortable with multi-timing like that. It's a good exercise to do to improve your timing there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see what Jacob says.
My instant kind of like reaction internally when you're like, everybody should sing, I'm like, and I'm sure there's a ton of people out there that do the same, but why is it important that we all sing?
I think it's a human thing. I think honestly, one of the most important things about music is, well, two things that are important about music that I think come from the voice. One is phrasing, and one is storytelling and communication. I guess that the third would be melody. I mean, it's funny because when I started bass playing, I didn't know how to do this or this, but I knew how to go. So a lot of it was me just standing and pretending to be a bass player. I was a bass player in my mind, but if I sang it out, you know, you find the notes. And still now as a bass player, I'm always ahead of myself with my mouth. Everything is singing for me. Every instrument is singing. It's just an extension of the voice. And I think what that does is it makes it sound like me when I'm playing, actually. If I play like it's separate from my voice, if I stop the inner voice in my head and I just play notes, then it starts to sound like notes. You know, but if I go, it doesn't even matter if I'm playing the right notes. I could be playing round notes, but it feels good, doesn't it? Because it's like there's something behind that bass line which is internal to me and my voice and my body. Honestly, it's my body that makes that bass line feel good. And if I separate the bass line from that, I mean, I could play all the notes in the right place and it doesn't move you at all. But if I go, I mean, I just start doing this on the bass, just playing the drums. and suddenly I'm doing the whole music is coming out through the bass. It's not just the bass notes. So for me, the one thing that unlocks that particular feeling is the voice and learning how to talk and speak these lines. It doesn't mean you have to go no and be a great vibrato singer, anything like that. It just means basically being a singer is just being comfortable speaking music, you know.
It's kind of vocalization, right?
It's kind of vocalization, yeah, honestly. And I mean, singing's like everything else. You know, I'm not the world's greatest singer. You know, if it was me and Beyonce on stage, I mean, there's one clear winner, and it's not Jacob. But as far as music is concerned, you know, I know what voices can do. I increasingly love what other people's voices can do that aren't mine. But I think that there's something profound about the fact that everyone has a voice, and everyone's voice is actually just different from everyone else's voice. And a lot of people ask me, "Hey, Jacob, you know, how do I find my own sound? You know, as a musician, how do I really make music that sounds like me?" And my first and most obvious answer, besides do the things that you like, is sing. Because if you sing as part of your music, no one sounds like you. It's absolutely effortless. You know, and early on for me as a recording artist, I sang loads of stuff. I would sing the keyboard parts, the harmony, the chords. I would sing the horn lines. I would sing the bass parts. I sing parts to the drums in, and I would leave it in the record. And you know, it might not sound as professional.
Oh, did you actually leave it in the record? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I remember when I wrote my first songs, you know, playing these chords on the keyboard, and I would double every note of the chord with my voice, and what that does is it makes it sound like me. You know, and you know, after a while, you know, I fall in love with the idea of arranging for voices. But it all started with thinking, well, I like the idea that the voice is just, no one's going to sound like my voice other than me, even if they tried, because they have a different voice from me. You know, my voice is not superior to other people's, but it's mine. And so I like the idea of using it. And, you know, I don't mean to say everyone has to record themselves singing, you know, warbling over whatever, but I would say in general, vocalizing, singing, talking, explaining, expressing with the voice is a hugely healthy thing to do as a musician.
Why the boys suddenly up here every time you are near, just like me, they long to be so very close to you.
What instant benefits would like a bass player or a guitar player or other instruments, what instant benefits would they get by putting part of their time into learning, you know, basic piano skills? And
context, really. It's context, and it's not about theory per se. It's not about saying like, oh, I know that, you know, that's an A7 sharp 11 chord and that I play this scale, or you know, it's not about that. It's about feeling chords. It's about saying if I'm it's knowing how that note that you are is connected to what is going on around you, and triads as well. I mean, I used to be really interested in cluster chords and scales, and now I'm just obsessed with triads. And I sit all day long playing triads. Over quarantine, my passion project was learning all the national anthems of the world. I've learned 25, and you know, so you sit and you say, you know, like Poland, right? It's just triads. And if you can do that, then you can go, you know, you can go, you can do whatever you want. But because for me, having the triads, and like, if I can visualize those voices moving, then it helps every instrument I play. It helps me feel that on the bass, I know where I am in the chord. It helps me hear my way through. And I used to listen to sounds like this, you know, and I think, wow, that's an amazing sound. I don't know what the hell it's called. I don't know what that sound is. I like it. The important thing, of course, is that I liked it, not that I understood it. But I love understanding it. I love knowing that that is an E and a B and an A chord at the same time, because that means as a bass player I can go and I can get around it. So really it's about freeing your ears up, and it's not about being a virtuoso, but geography. I mean, it's
kind of like seeing the full picture, isn't it?
Seeing the whole picture, exactly.
Hey, I just want to say a massive thanks for watching that video. Now, if you want to watch the entire video with Jacob, it's over an hour long. He gets into a bunch of amazing stuff all about the bass. If you want to check that out, the link is in the description below. Just click that, it'll take you over to the page and you can watch it there. It's totally free to view. And if you are trying to level your skills up on the bass, you will also find a ton of free resources and lessons over on the website as well. So with that said, take it easy, click that link in the description, and I'll see you in the shed.
Oh, I want to watch that entire video.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah.
Well, there were moments in there I felt like I was looking at a young Glenn. when he was like vocalizing like the parts and things, I was like, I could see Glenn doing that.
Sure. Well, they all want me to do more vocalizing or more singing in while I'm playing. They also want me to do more solos, like they want to throw me bass solos. And I never really liked the whole bass solo idea, because to me, like, the whole rest of the song drops away. Like my classic example is always like Brick House. You're playing the song Brick House, there's a bass line there, and there's a bass line there for a reason. That's holding the song together. Like, that's the whole point of the song. And somebody goes, hey, take a solo. And it's like, okay, well, now you have to build a solo where you're building that bass line into the solo that you're doing. So you should be doing a solo that incorporates elements of that bass line, or you keep coming back to that bass line, stuff like that. But you got to plan that out, right? There's somebody just kind of
with the examples
it's like
with the examples we've seen tonight, you got a lot of different ways you can go.
Exactly. There are. And it's just, for me, it always came down to, in order to free myself up to do a solo or whatever, I have to let go of the bass line that's there, or that was already part of it, unless somebody's going to cover that. Like, if there's a guitar player and he can cover that bass line and I hear it happening, then I can work around that and do what I would normally do. Because if I had the song on and I had the bass in my hands, I would do something that's more of a solo, and it would seem effortless because the song is still happening behind me, rather than the song just dropping away and now it's just me and the bass doing what for a couple measures,
I'll tell you, on the soloing side, you're gonna like the next one we got. But
Oh, yeah.
Jacob, wow, I can't believe the amount of wisdom that he already has musically. I mean, he's still so young, but so like he understands music at that level.
Yeah.
And
It's
he
really
does have a hell of a voice. No wonder he wants to sing while he plays.
Mhm. Exactly. And singing while playing, singing while playing is one thing. And again, the phrasing was my part of that. It was the part that I was thinking about beforehand. That was the importance, was the phrasing. And the same way with breathing, leaving space and all of that comes in also from, if you can sing the part, then you're leaving enough room. It's not just notes one after the other all day, because you have to stop and breathe every once in a while.
And for him, it seemed like I think he mentioned it helped him to figure out what he was trying to play, which that's why it reminded me of you, because I've seen you do the same thing where you're trying to figure out what's getting played, and it seems like you do it vocally before you actually do it on your instrument.
Somewhat depends. Sometimes I have difficulty figuring out exactly where it is vocally, but I'll find it on the instrument just like by hitting any note randomly, and then I can basically hear whether I'm it's a higher or lower, higher, and just go from there, and you'll find it
calibrated at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also you can kind of hear the interval. Like if you're listening for a single note, that's a C. But if you're listening for a single note and you're take a guess and it's that one, that's an F. And you can hear that that's either it's a fourth away or a fifth away or whatever. You can hear that it's a distance away. It's not right next door, where it would sound much more dissonant.
Yeah, as long as you're not trying one of those, like that chord example where it's 3 chords in one.
A whole bunch of stuff together, yeah. And luckily we have Meticulous, so if I did do something like that, I could just have it tell me, that's an F sharp 11, whatever, We could
yeah,
see
it is pretty good at identifying.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Now,
so this bassist, this one's a new one for you, right?
I believe so, yeah.
And when it comes to like soloing, of all the different things I was hearing throughout all of these, he was another jaw dropper for me.
Bass Tales episode 17.
Watch Scott's face at the beginning as he's watching it, and you'll see.
Oh yeah, the bass tone secrets. Let's check it out.
So excited about this. So if I had to point to one bass player who I thought was the outlier of all outliers in terms of like jazz and improvisation on the electric bass, the one person that's influenced more people over the last 2 decades than anybody else, I'd point to Hadrien Feraud, because this guy is an absolute monster in every sense of the word. And in today's video, you're going to be going behind the scenes and hanging out with the man himself, Hadrien, and he's going to be showing you all of his basses. What could be cooler than that? So with that said, Hadrien, take it away.
So this bass, this is my second signature bass with Ken Smith. Yeah, that's a Ken Smith. Did you see that? And it, I put my name on it. This bass is really cool. It looks good. Look at this. It's been in a few videos that you may have seen back when, some videos actually that went viral, believe it or not, but the 2010 viral. I don't know how it translates nowadays. I also recorded most of my second album with it, born in the 80s. All that. Time for my feature. That's what I added to this model. The burner model originally didn't have this one, and it looked like that way. Here you go. Look, like before Hadrien, during Hadrien. So because I'm still here. You are being a bass player now. All that fancy shit. Okay. And then the leader of the band, say when you're with Sting, because sometimes you play with Sting, you can play with him sometimes, And then he points at you and like, solo! Yeah, guess what? Most bass players, they're gonna just solo and be like, here's how I appear now with my feature. Yeah, because if you're gonna roll that button, you also gotta have your playing matching with it. And this is something that the old farts are not gonna like. But whether you like it or not, now you're being completely lyrical. You might want to work on it first, with your modes first, especially if you're the bass player in Sting's band, matter of fact. But at least every note that you play was actually heard. And then you get fired. Does it make sense? Hi, I'm Hadrien. Oh, I already said that. This is the third model of the signature series, Ken Smith burner. And this one now is, I believe, the first maple neck for those, actually the entire Ken Smith history, I believe. I was trying to be different once again. Thought it would be cool, and sure enough, it was cool. Because it looks good, it sounds good, and it is good. So you got the volume, the balance, bass, and treble, and then I just added this one. And then now it also has the passive feature. for when you're like me and you forget to put batteries in your bass most of the time. But also, in some rooms, it actually cut through better. Mainly with this bass, if I use a Ken Smith to record, this one records really good. Another one that I have in France too, that's a Seafoam Green, which you guys may have seen if you know me and you like my stuff. Only. I don't always do. It has that warmth that's almost reminiscent of the P bass. And I use it mainly for actually either like straight ahead or groove oriented, or even, you know, hip hop, or actually I used it even in some Americana or country stuff, you know. Okay, it has that P bass thing in it, more than the other basses that we're gonna next. So, now this one, we continued with the maple neck. This is the 4th signature model. B flat, that's amazing. Oh my god. Oh, I like it. There you go. Never mind. Passive. Bowls, no bowls, no bowls. Bowls, whatever. This is gonna be the low end, same thing. Really predictable, huh? Oh, by the way, that's wood also. So that way, I mean, when you turn your knob, you feel more fabulous. By the way, did you see this? Did you see? Those are pretty cool, huh? Whoop! LK straps, ladies and gents. So if you want to check the guys that does those things, beautiful things, I could dress only with this, by the way. This is amazing. So now this bass is a unique model. This is the prototype of my first signature with Mionis. It's a jazz bass, as you can see. And actually, that was me asking for the, you know, my personal specs, as you can tell. It's got the 70 spacing, as you can see. And this is why I added the ramp here, so I can keep, you know, with the technique that you know if you know my stuff. Did I say that? And it's got the same exact setup as my Ken Smith, matter of fact, because everything is built upon that maple fingerboard. What else? Pretty light too. And it sounds dirty. I like it, you know. All that kind of stuff. Really dirty, you know. And I have used it for some rock. Did you play rock, by the way? You probably didn't know that. I think I'm gonna get laid. Oh no, wait. False alarm. So here it is. The first signature with Meonis that I did as a jazz bass, you know, model. And this time around, I changed it into the 60s spacing here, you know, in order to have a different bass still. So as you can see, same thing is happening. There's a setting with options here that are the same exact volume, balance, low end, highs and mids. Same thing is happening. It's amazing. It's wow. And it sounds really good too. Whether it is straight ahead or straight up like pop sessions and stuff like that, it fits everything. That has my signature here that I you know, Hadrien, as if I was kind of like fabulous enough to just be called Hadrien and then you would know who I am right away. I'm very popular in my hometown, by the way, in my living room with my parents. They call me Hadrien when they call me. Non, attends, je le refais parce que là je suis trop fancy, je suis trop fancy, attends. So here it is now. Okay.
I think you're gonna get laid too, Hadrien. And not only does he have wood, he can switch between balls.
Balls? No balls.
I think I would go with balls.
Well, then you got to remember to bring batteries then, because that was the active was battery power, and then passive was no balls, and that's the one where you don't have to worry about batteries. But yes,
I love that he's got this opportunity to sculpt his sound with the manufacturer like that. That's, you know, the sign of like accomplishment in a musician when they're building their instruments around your needs.
Oh yeah, and like the ramps there on, you know, in between the pickups there to keep the string, you know, depth shallow, stuff like that. You know, that's one of those things that you know, little modifications that people would make that, you know, you take notice of, you see if it's something that would suit your style or not. Like some people, they would dig in further on the strings, so they, you know, wouldn't want that in their way. But for somebody who's playing fast like that, they, you know, to do that speed, you can't be that far in between or under the strings. You never want to get that deep in between the strings because he's flying, like working his way right up. But that's amazing skills right there for sure. Now, I think we have one more. And I think the one more is a secret of gospel bassists. So let's take a look.
Dudes, Andrew Goucher, do I need to say anything more?
Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm here with the amazing Andrew Goucher, who has... Yeah. How you doing?
Today he is back in the house with us, and we're actually going to be talking about why he tunes his entire bass down a whole step. Now you might have heard of guys doing this before, and it probably either goes back to Andrew Goucher or the late great Joel Smith. To the studio. Before we even get into like the stuff that you're playing, explain the tuning thing. Otherwise, people will be like freaking. They'll be playing the bass, and they'll be like, "What? Yeah."
So I tuned down a whole step, and story behind that is, and I've told a story before, is when I started playing in the '70s, there was no such thing as a 5-string bass. So growing up playing in church, a lot of the songs were in flat keys, E flat, A flat, B flat. And it just used to piss me off to come right here to play E flat.
Because it's hard. If you're on that E flat, the D as well.
It just doesn't, it didn't sound like bass to me, you know. And so I started tuning down. And actually, a good friend of mine, Joel Smith, tuned down a half step.
We were talking about just before,
Yeah, he tuned down half step. So I wanted to be lower than him, so I tuned down a whole step.
So there was no sort of like crazy theory about why half step and whole step, you just felt.
And it just, it felt right when I did it, you know. And then when I got my first 5-string, I think it was 85.
One of the most professional and baddest bass players you could ever meet. From California, Mr. Angified.
I have perfect pitch, so I'd gotten used to...
have you got perfect pitch?
Yeah, which is a blessing and a curse, but that's why, you know. So I tuned down a whole step, and I've just done it for the since 1981, I've been playing tune that way.
And people watching this will be thinking, like, should I tune down a half step or a whole step? Like, what would you tell somebody, like, if they asked you that?
I would tell anybody, you do what feels right to you. You know, for me, it just feels right. And even when I tune up sometimes, it doesn't sound right to me. The bass sounds different.
Yeah, because the strings are going to have... have less tension in them, I suppose, aren't they?
You can really tell the difference.
Because I've noticed that when you're doing your thing, like you've got sometimes quite a lot of vibrato as well. Is that because they're the looser strings? Is it?
I think so. I use light gauge strings too, but for me, you know, I grew up around great singers, and I was always, it's just playing the bass to me is almost like singing. There's, and then there's
that, It's
yeah, you see me doing that a lot. Like I'm doing.
Yeah, it just gives a different vibe to the note, yeah. Exactly that, yeah. So it's always there, it's like one of those sort of like...
Especially on...
articulations.
Songs like that, lower tempo songs, you know, obviously on fast songs, it's not going to be prevalent, but to me, every note that I play means something, you know, it's not so much about lines as it is about the notes, and I'm feeling the notes that I'm playing.
So now you know why a lot of gospel musicians tune down. Let's hear Andrew play a track so we can soak some of that groove up. Dudes, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comments below who you want me to get in the hot seat next for you. And obviously, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and switch your notifications on, as that way, next time I upload one of these bad boys, you're going to get notified about it. Obviously, I want to send some serious bass love out to Andrew Goucher as well for being part of what we're building over at scottsbasslessons.com. And with that in mind, if you haven't checked out scottsbasslessons.com yet, make sure you do so and grab a 14-day free trial as well, so you can, take the ultimate online bass school for a test drive just to see if it's for you. Now, without further ado, take it easy and I'll see you in the shed.
Oh, Andrew Goucher.
Yeah.
You could see him singing. Like, going back to the singing tips earlier, you could see him singing as he was playing. He makes that bass sing.
Exactly. And it so much helps getting that groove out, for sure. And he's got it. He's got plenty of groove. That's for sure.
And, for any bassist out there that wants to take it to the next level, go hang out in Scott's shed.
Absolutely.
Yes, at scottsbasslessons.com. Start there. That's the mothership.
Yep.
And you will level your bass up.
Absolutely. Works for me, can work for you.
and all these videos, at Devine Bass on YouTube, so much free resource. Just get your feet wet.
Exactly. And you see which ones the guys, again, multiple contributors, as you saw there, a bunch of different people that they have interviews with, or they, look at the style of, or they, dissect the music from different people. I mean, all kinds of different information there for sure.
Yeah. When it comes to our different themes and the examples we hear that really get me fired up and pumped up, this one goes down at the top.
Yes, indeed.
Bass
is big.
Lot of fireworks hearing all that.
And a lot of the stuff, relates across other instruments as well. It's not all just about bass, but this is very bass focused to get a good start.
Well,
and I think it's a great place
for me as a keyboardist. Bass is half of what's going on. So all of this, I'm feeding off of it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's all we had time for this week. So thanks everybody for coming out.
And check out Scott's lessons. If any of you do, send us a shout. Let us know. We'd love to hear your experiences and what you think. We really do think this is like the ultimate bass resource these days.
Definitely. You would not be alone in going there, for sure. And then next week, probably not going to be about bass, but we will come back to bass.
Well,
because we're not done yet.
We're going to be gearing up for Halloween next week.
That's right.
We're going to look at what makes music spooky.
Exactly.
Gonna be fun. Yeah, gonna be fun. And we might even have a few costumes.
Nice. We'll see what we can do about that next time on Talking Shh I.T. with Glenn and Tony.
Night, everyone.
See you guys next time. Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ended right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.